And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of GCR. I am Glenn. He is Griffin. All good over here. Grayson Rodriguez is the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball. I guess it's between him and Jacob Webb anyway.
Yeah.
Two greatest pitchers in baseball history, obviously. He was great last night, man. Except for one swing. Boy, that was a bomb. But other than that, he was phenomenal. 7 innings. I guess they're not all that worried about his innings limit.
No.
I mean, they're not.
Although
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. It didn't seem like they were pushing him at all. Although he did get into a little bit of trouble in the 7th, and you started to think to yourself, like, all right, go ahead. Go ahead, go get him. Not a problem. Not a problem. Boy, was he breathtaking. And then Felix Bautista decided to go ahead and do a little dance there in the... Boy, I don't know what's going on there. Like, we convinced ourselves that what happened last week against Houston, we're like, oh, he's past that. Look how brilliant he was in Seattle. And then turns around and walks 2 guys ahead of Manny Machado.
Let's keep it interesting. You know?
Sheesh. But the Orioles win 4-1. Obviously, the home run from Ryan O'Hearn, who had been cooling just a bit of late. So it was nice to see that. And then, of course, the big 3-run triple from Gunnar Henderson, providing all of the offense. And Grayson Rodriguez dominant as the Orioles open up the series with the Padres. With the 4-1 victory, guarantee that they will continue their streak of not being swept and now look to win another series on this West Coast swing as they send Jack Flaherty to the mound tonight. Coming up a little bit later on in the program, we will continue our 40th anniversary celebration of the Orioles' 1983 World Series title. We've been doing this every week all summer. Disco Dan Ford will join us today. Of course, hit that big home run in Game 3 against Steve Carlton in the 1983 World Series. Also going to get into a little bit of football. What we're not going to do, I swear to God, if you all know what was going on in the studio this morning.
They'd be jealous, probably.
Jesus Christ. I come in here today, and Griffin has our TV on, and I'm like, was there a soccer match I didn't know about? Was there I don't even know who won the World Cup.
Spain won.
Spain?
Yes,
okay,
Spain,
so Spain
their first final, I believe.
On to the World Cup final where they get the England-Australia winner coming up tomorrow morning. I was like, is there a soccer match or something? Like, what do I not know about that's on the TV?
The real football.
No, that's definitely not real football. There's no question about that. Griffin has apparently the Ravens have some sort of like live cam of the joint practice with the Commanders.
Oh, look at that. Roquan versus Brian Robinson.
Stop it.
Look at that.
Stop it. I'm gonna force you to turn it off in a minute.
Okay. Roquan's blowing him up.
We will talk some football this morning as Seth Walder from ESPN, one of their analytics guys, who's also very involved in their NFL coverage. Seth Walder wrote a piece recently suggesting the Ravens should be in the market for one of the guys they're practicing against today, Chase Young. It should be interesting as the Ravens continue to, not sign a veteran edge rusher. They did add a corner, but not one of the ones that we were thinking. I don't even remember what the guy's name was.
Houston Carson, right?
Yeah, something.
DeAndre Houston Carson.
DeAndre Houston Carson, former Lion, signed by the Ravens.
Was he a bear or a lion?
I thought he was a
maybe
lion.
It was both.
Maybe it was both. I thought I saw. Hang on a second. Maybe I'm. Oh no. You know what? Maybe it was the Bears. I'm realizing I saw Tavon Young gassing him up on Twitter, and I don't know why. Maybe I confused him with Deshaun Elliott, who had gone to Detroit, but no, it was Chicago.
Oh,
correct.
William and Mary.
Okay, he probably played at Towson at some point in his life. How about that? Now he's going to be a golden guy. Now that we know that. But we'll talk to Seth Walder about that idea. Also, he was involved with this sort of like conclave that ESPN did, diving into quarterbacks that I was just looking at. He and Dan Orlovsky and Tim Hasselbeck and Matt Bowen kind of breaking down quarterback by quarterback throughout the NFL. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well with Seth Walder. And Evan Washburn, of course, part of the Ravens broadcast crew for the preseason, then part of CBS for the regular season. We will check in with Evan Washburn to get his impressions of what he's seen from the Ravens from Saturday night and also from his time out in Owings Mills. So all that coming up on the program today. Today's show brought to you by Superbook Sports. Glenn Clark 23. Glenn Clark 23, GLENNCLARK 23. It will save you from your sins. Well, actually, what it'll do is it'll get you a first bet match up to $250, win or lose when you place your first bet with Superbook, our newest partner and official partner of the Baltimore Orioles. We're so happy to have them on board. And again, Glenn Clark 23, GLENNCLARK. Glenn Clark 23. That's the way to get in and take advantage of this offer. You'd be silly. You'd be foolish not to do that. Again, match your first bet, win or lose, up to $250 with that code at superbook.com or on the Superbook app. Not really that much more to say about last night. The only story really of the day was Aaron Hicks' return, although what's going on with him?
I don't believe have they said anything yet?
I'm not sure.
Not great, though. He didn't look great on his final
Well, yeah,
play.
and then apparently he wasn't even in the dugout afterwards. Not ideal. We'll see if there was any update about Aaron Hicks. But Aaron Hicks returned, and the move was to send down Colton Cowser. And it's disappointing because you always want these guys to arrive, and then the guys that are heralded, you want to have arrive and then be so good that they stay here for forever. As a lot of people were pointing out yesterday, the guy that was pitching is a great example of someone who got here, it was a little bit too big for him, went back down, and was just fine for it. And you hope that that's what's going to happen with Colton Cowser. In no world am I writing him off as a top prospect, but I certainly think that, like, that conversation that we were having yesterday about Cedric Mullins and Jeremy Kahn sort of saying, I don't know if I can be all that surprised if they move on from Cedric Mullins at some point. I think those two things, you measure them. Like, at some point, the question was, do you have to move on from Cedric Mullins because Colton Cowser has to be the guy? With follow-up questions being warranted, like, well, if you're moving on, or if Colton Cowser's got to be your center fielder, could maybe Cedric Mullins be your left fielder? And, you know, maybe Hayes is the guy that you move on from, who has not fallen apart the way they did a year ago, but for now a second straight year is not backing up his early season form, is not proving to be that guy. I don't want to be dismissive of Austin Hayes or say he's not helpful or anything along those lines, but it is part of his story. I'm not suggesting that the little bit of time that we saw Colton Cowser proves that he's not your future center fielder. But maybe it does impact whether or not you are confident as a franchise. If Mike Elias was confident that, like, I could use Cedric Mullins to go get the next two pieces that I needed and slide in Colton Cowser as my center fielder next year and feel like I can go win a championship with that, maybe he does have to second-guess himself. Now, I would have never thought that way. Good baseball players, to me, at prime positions, are not guys that I throw away. I'm going to be writing, or I did write my column. It's going to, the one that I had to make up for because by the way, our guy Matt Torper did some research for me. Hang on a second, about my Ramon Urias conundrum. Said, after hearing about Urias' shockingly low outs above average, I dug into his fielding StatCast numbers. Apparently, the computers think his performance on balls hit in front of him has taken a big step back. That seems to be the main culprit. Also, not quite as good as going to his left. However, he only has half the attempts at third base as he had last year, so this could be all skewed by a smaller sample size. Baseball Reference still gives him a positive defensive WAR and decent defensive runs saved, and his fielding percentage is up from last season, only 2 errors total. So he's still great at making the routine play and avoiding huge mishaps. It does seem like his ability to charge and make putouts on soft grounders and bunts has gone down, but maybe with more chances that would improve. I'm not going to read too much into it and definitely still trust Hyde's judgment and the eye test. To the point, and I said this to Matt, I'm absolutely not suggesting that Ramon Urias should not be playing. Not at all. This was just, the context was I wanted to write basically a love letter to Ramon Urias, and those numbers stopped me in my tracks. I could not justify a love letter with those numbers, but it's not. Ramon Urias made some nice plays last night, right? Like, I still enjoy watching Ramon Urias play baseball. I just can't be dismissive of that and pretend like he's something that the numbers say he isn't. But in no world am I suggesting that Brandon Hyde should not put Ramon Urias on the field. And I think that's a fair point about the sample size, because obviously they've had more guys they've tried to get playing time this year with a full season of Gunnar Henderson and Jordan Westberg's arrival and Adam Frazier having been signed. Like, they're just juggling a lot of things as far as trying to find playing time for Ramon Urias. All that being said, my column that will be coming today is sort of like my mea culpa for Ryan Mountcastle. And I wasn't even as bad as some of you guys were. Like, my thing was I could understand if they moved on from Ryan Mountcastle, or certainly if they had DFA'd him. I think it might ultimately be inevitable that Ryan Mountcastle can't be a centerpiece of a championship caliber team. I wrote those things. No, I didn't write those things. I said those. I know I said those things. What I wrote was far softer than that. Like, what I wrote was just, hang on, I can pull it up. The worst that I found that I had written about Ryan Mountcastle for Pressbox was not strong at all. It was, the purpose of this column is not to denigrate Ryan Mountcastle, a quality baseball player and person. It is consider how Mountcastle fits within the Orioles' pursuit of building a World Series winner in the coming years. It is instead to consider whether a player with a career .307 on-base percentage can be a centerpiece player for a championship team, which was a fair assessment. It wasn't a shot in any way. It was a fair assessment. And I didn't, unlike some people who, go to the extremes or just say things for the sake of saying them, like Ryan Mountcastle sucks or Ryan Mountcastle whatever. I don't ever do that. So I'm not that guy. And yet still, I felt the need to literally say the words, I apologize, Ryan Mountcastle. Because clearly, the thing where I was limiting him as a baseball player, I was not taking the vertigo seriously enough. And I think a lot of us were confused by the timeline, because it felt like the Orioles had kind of decided to give Ryan Mountcastle a mental break, and then all of a sudden there was this vertigo thing. And I think a lot of us were like,
right, it seemed fishy. Like,
yeah. I think a lot of us were going through some of that. And you know what? On me. I can say it. I'm sorry. I got that wrong. And it does complicate this conversation, right? Because one of the things that I thought was maybe in a post-Ryan Mountcastle world, you've got room for both Heston Kjerstad and Anthony Santander. But now, if Heston Kjerstad's coming and that you're kind of one short of spots. Again, short of making someone a full-time DH. And maybe that's what Heston Kjerstad would be. At the moment, it would seem like one of Austin Hayes or Cedric Mullins, given
it's just the odd
that they're elevated a little bit, and at some point you're closer to a decision about having to pay them or move on from them. It would seem like one of them would be the guy to go. If it came down to that, I would probably say, as much as I like Austin Hayes, I would lean that way. I don't think it has to be that, though. And I'm never going to be in favor of solving problems that don't exist. I just wonder if the thing that we saw from Colton Cowser impacts that thought process in any way. Look, Colton Cowser could still be here before the season is over. He could still end up being an impact player in the playoffs. Hell, depending on what's going on with Aaron Hicks, I mean, it could be very soon. And I don't think defensively we saw anything about Colton Cowser that makes us question whether or not he can play the outfield at the major league level.
He just needs more.
Right, and I think most of us believe that he gets some more time, he's going to be okay, and he's still a big part of these plans. But as we've said all along, the likelihood that all of these guys would pan out exactly the level that we expected them to, slim, not impossible, but slim. And this is 100% to me a bird in hand situation. Like, I know exactly what Cedric Mullins is. I have no reason to think he's going to fall off the cliff before he's 34 years old.
Especially defensively.
Right, like I'm not going to give him a 10-year extension.
Well,
I don't know. He's 28. But like 5 years?
Doesn't seem...
That's getting you 3 extra years on top of the 2 years of control that he already has. That takes you to when he's 33, 34 years old if you do it after the season is over.
It's not like it's a Chris Davis contract.
No, you're not. Yes, correct. I I don't know. I don't know if the two things have anything to do with each other. But I do know that for a while we have talked definitively like Colton Cowser has to be your center fielder of the future. And I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. That doesn't mean that I'm writing off Colton Cowser. It doesn't mean that he might not be in time. It might be that Colton Cowser proves to be so good in the coming years that you've got to let him play center field. But Cedric Mullins' arm, I don't know of more than one scenario where Cedric Mullins' arm was an issue for this team this season. His range has so more than made up for it that I don't necessarily need to have somebody with a stronger arm in center field. I get it. If you're confident that Colton Cowser has Cedric Mullins' range and a better arm, I can understand the argument. I don't think that anybody has Cedric Mullins' range right now.
But it's not just like the defense. Like he would need to have.
Well, yes, I understand that too. Well, but I'm talking about a scenario where Cedric Mullins simply moves to left field, not a scenario where you're getting rid of Cedric Mullins.
Gotcha.
I just can't fathom that at the moment. Like it's unfathomable to me that you would move on from that player. Again, understanding that at some point you got to use what you have in order to get what you need, but just can't do that. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Aaron Hicks, and we'll see what happens with Colton Cowser. I'm not down on Colton Cowser. This is not but at the moment, it was the right thing to do. Colton Cowser needs to play. He needs to be in swinging the bat every day. And right now, that's not something he can do at the major league level. So this kind of had to happen. In a way, I was a little bit surprised that he wasn't the guy that went for Cedric on Friday. Like, honestly, I don't really know why they waited 3 more days for that. I don't think Ryan McKenna needs everyday at-bats. Unfortunately, Ryan McKenna isn't an everyday Major League Baseball player. But Colton Cowser probably will be. I would have been in favor of him getting more everyday at-bats. Maybe they just wanted to make sure that Cedric was good, before they made the Cowser move. I don't know. But I would have probably done that first on Friday and then McKenna yesterday. But that's what they did, and I'm fine with it. Honestly, I'm completely fine with it. And the Grayson Rodriguez thing is, titillating. You get all flummoxed. You get all, our guy, the pitching ninja, retweeted what he had said about Grayson Rodriguez, or what we had said he said about Grayson Rodriguez last week. And I don't blame him. God. So very exciting. But, it's still I still, every time I watch it, I'm like, but are we confident? Because if you have that guy in the postseason,
then he's able to mow down Soto, Machado.
But am I confident that he's going to be available in the postseason? I don't know. I hope. I sure as hell hope so, because, God, that looks like a game changer. But am I confident? I don't know. I don't know if there's, again, they're using the 6-man rotation right now. Do they think about outright skipping guys to use days off? They have a day off on Thursday. Do they at all consider that possibility with Grayson Rodriguez at some point? Or do they is he so in the zone, they say, dude, you just need to keep going out there. Every 6th or 7th day. I guess at this point, with a 6-man rotation and a day off, he wouldn't pitch again already for a week. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't be until next week that he would pitch. I don't even know what's their schedule next week. Do they have another off day on Monday by chance?
I think
they're back home.
Yeah, I think they are off Monday because they played Tuesday through Thursday.
So he wouldn't be in line to pitch again until Wednesday of next week. So there's certainly, I don't think there's a chance that they're going to skip him. I don't think it's going to play out that way. Let me double check that I'm doing this math right.
He would be lined up.
They are off on Monday and they play on the Blue Jays. So they'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I guess next
6.
Tuesday?
No, next Wednesday because the 2 days off. So they would need to get. He'd be the 6th guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, you're right. Tuesday. You're right. Tuesday. Okay. He'd be the 6th guy. That's correct. Sorry, I did the math wrong in my head. Tuesday is the day.
So
it'd still be 8 days from when he pitched most recently. I was thinking that last night was Tuesday and today was I did the whole
skipping the week.
Yep, I just did a whole thing there. But still, we're talking about 8 days between starts. They're obviously not going to skip him. Now, after that, they don't have an off day for a little while, so that's a different story. They're not going to be able to buy many more days. It's It's unbelievable. He has all of it. Go watch some of the overlays that our guy Rob Friedman, the pitching ninja, posted last night on Twitter. Whew. Overwhelming. Awesome performance from Grayson Rodriguez, who has been so very good, and it is hard to not get carried away and see that he is becoming the guy that we thought he was going to be. All right. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. And buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. So let's switch gears a little bit. As we mentioned, today, Ravens and Commanders practicing against each other. They'll do that for 2 days this week, and then they will get together for a preseason contest on Monday night. And it just so happens that our next guest thinks that these two teams should consider maybe making a deal before the season begins. He is very much an analytics guy, amongst other things, at ESPN. He is Seth Walder, and he is with us now here on GCR. Seth, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
Sure. Good morning. How are you?
I am all right. I'm intrigued by your idea. So Seth wrote about potential trades that teams can make before the season, and I'm intrigued by this idea because, Seth, it's weird to me. The Ravens seem to have brought in, like, every veteran edge rusher for me. Some of them were on their roster a year ago, and they've just let those guys walk. Some of them they brought in for meetings, for workouts, whatever it is, and they've signed none of them. And I keep thinking to myself, like, they appear to think this is a problem, and yet they're not really doing anything drastically to try to solve it. Do you think there's any chance that they are considering that maybe we're aiming too low and we need to aim a little bit higher with this issue before the season begins?
I mean, it certainly looks on paper like, an area for potential improvement. So, I mean, the idea I threw out there was trading a 3 and a 5 for Chase Young from the Commanders. And to me, it's kind of like that feels like a Ravens move to me. It's like you're betting on a player you're betting low on a player. I think obviously he has tremendous upside, and you're getting him in the last year of his deal. You can probably let him walk for a comp pick if it works out, or if it doesn't work out. Either way, you could do that, or you could sign him to an extension. That just feels like a Ravens move to me to do that kind of thing, and it addresses a weakness. So when I was looking at trade partners for a potential Young deal, which I do think makes sense given the Commanders not picking up his 5th-year option, that's a pretty clear sign of what they think. And to me, I thought the Ravens just fit.
I'm confused because I admittedly don't get to watch the Commanders very much because, let's be honest, they don't play very many meaningful football games. I'm confused as to what actually has happened with Chase Young, right? Like, I know that there's injuries there, but we all saw the guy in his rookie season that looked like everything that everybody thought he was going to be coming out of college. What has gone on with Chase Young? Why are we in this position where you're talking about the possibility of buying him low?
Well, I think the injury is like by far the biggest factor here, right? He tore his ACL, came back last year. He did not look good in the limited playing time that he had. And so, this is a player that we've thought of extremely highly by the league, and obviously his stock has fallen. I think that the key number, though, to me, everyone agrees that he had a great rookie season, right? You just said it. I think the key season to look at, though, is in 2021 when he had, I think it was just 1.5 sacks that year. But our underlying numbers at that point suggest that he was still a very effective passer.
Okay.
He had a 19% pass rush win rate at edge that year, which is above average in the 9 games that he played. And to me, I think that is the number that I would look at to say, okay, here's a guy that the season before, he was better as a rookie, don't get me wrong, 22.5%, that's like top 10 kind of levels as a rookie. But what I'm saying is, even though he had just 1.5 sacks, he was still an effective pass rusher in that second season. That gives me extra confidence to say, okay, before this injury, this is a guy that put together 1.5 really strong seasons for a player who's in his first 1.5 years in the league. that's a guy I want to bet on given the draft pedigree. And, yeah, he struggled last year, but he was coming right off the injury. A lot of guys need a little bit of recovery time before then. So I do think that upside remains with Chase Young, considering all of that.
All right, so let me ask it this way, Seth, because you bring up about what the data says, that he's still impactful. I feel like that's the argument that the Ravens have made about Odafe Oweh, right? Like that he's, while you're not seeing it translate to sacks, he is, some of what the work he's doing allowed for, say, Justin Houston to get sacks a year ago. My question would be, would it be the wrong way to go to get another guy who's impactful but not the guy that we can be confident that can definitely be the one to get the quarterback on the ground at this point?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, but I would not make that case about Odafe Oweh.
Okay.
So last year he had just a 13% pass rush win rate, so that's below average. Compare that to Houston, who is up at 19%, which is kind of in that range, right about where Young was in 2021, right? Well short of where he was in 2020. And I'm saying that as like a compliment. Houston was 14th in pass rush win rate last season at edge, whereas Odafe Oweh, 31st out of 49 qualifying pass rushers. Like, to me, I don't think that I would – there are players you put in that camp. Like, I think it is a reasonable case to say that there are some guys who are better at getting disruption early in the pass rush, aren't as good at completing the stat, and that's fine. But we haven't seen that from Oweh. 13% this year, 11% in 2021. Yeah. I don't see him as that guy.
I'm probably inclined to agree with you. I'm simply listening to the arguments that they have made and trying to pass them along. Seth Walder from ESPN is with us. Seth, so when you say buy low, right, like realistically, I guess there's a part of me that says I hear what you're saying with the Commanders, but couldn't they just feel the same way? Couldn't they just say, like, let's see what he does this year? If it works out, maybe, we go back to him and say, dude, we always loved you. We always wanted you around, right? There's still the option of the franchise tag if he has such a good season. And they say, or we can get the compensatory pick. I know that practically the rest of us can say, hey, we know the Commanders are not going to be in this thing. They're playing Sam Howell as their quarterback. It's extraordinary. But they're not going to think that way, and there's new ownership there, and hell, the NFC is wide open, right? Like, 7 teams have to make the playoffs. My God, who knows? Is there reason to actually believe they'd want to do this, or is there a cost that you would pay that would make them say, yeah, we definitely do it for that cost?
I think that it's a fair question, and it absolutely could be that they say, we want to ride this out. We want to see what happens here. And you're right, they could franchise tag him. I think that there is a difference, though, in that, look, it's hard to know a team's free agency plans a year out,
right,
without being that team. But if you look at cap space for 2024, the Commanders have almost $80 million in 2024 cap space. Like, that says to me, this is a team that is going to be in free agency, new ownership. That means that they might not be getting a comp pick back for Chase Young. And so if they're feeling like, hey, we're going to be big spenders next year, which seems reasonably likely, then why risk losing him for nothing if I'm saying you can get a 3 and a 5 for him right now, which is more than you're going to get in terms of compensatory picks. And so I think that's fair. Like, I agree. Yes, you and I sit here and say it is easier for us to say, like, the Commanders aren't winning the Super Bowl this year. So, like, well, why are you risking losing him for nothing? It is harder for them to come to that realization, but, like, I think it's also important for teams to be rational. The other factor is that they've already put a lot of money into their defensive line.
Sure.
Like, they've already paid Deron Payne.
Yeah.
They've already paid Jonathan Allen. Montez Sweat is on his 5th-year option. They probably are going to pay him. Probably. I don't know, but probably. Are you going to pay all 4 of those guys? I doubt it. And so it does make, I think, some sense for the Commanders. I'll say this: like, I would want to bet on Chase Young at this moment. I am taking the cue from the Commanders not picking up his 5th-year option, because that to me was a pretty clear sign. And so that's what made me think, okay, maybe they would really want to deal him at this point, because they could have had him under control for 2024, and they chose not to.
So let me ask it the flip side way. Is it definitively worth giving up multiple picks for a player in the Lamar Jackson contract era, at the time where we say these picks are so much more valuable. Seth, let me give you background. This is a tough thing for us to talk about in Baltimore because it's so easy in the rest of the country to say, hey, 10 years ago what doomed the Ravens was Joe Flacco's contract, when those of us that were here said, no, it wasn't Joe Flacco's contract. It was that the Ravens had the worst stretch of drafting they've ever had in their history for the years that just happened to be right around Joe Flacco's contract, and they couldn't make up for it. So I guess the question is, can you take a risk and spend multiple picks on a player like this in an era where you know you've got a lot of money locked up into one player as far as your cap is concerned?
I think you can. I mean, we're talking about a 3 and a 5, which is, by the way, the price that the Dante Fowler trade, but he was kind of in a similar situation a few years ago, highly drafted player, didn't totally pan out, goes for a 3 and a 5 entering his 4th season. I think you can because you're talking about an elite upside at a position of weakness. He costs you nothing against the cap right now, like nothing. And so I think it would cost the Ravens $1 million. So to me, yes, I think you can when you're shooting for that kind of like realistic upside, which is like very feasible to me. So I think it's worth it. A 3 and a 5, I would do that.
Now I got to ask you about this quarterback council that you guys did, right? I thought it was really fascinating, and I don't really have a strong. I'm sure like a lot of people are picking you apart today. Was there anything that when you saw the final numbers and how everybody else rated these quarterbacks, was there anything that most bothered you and said, "Oh no, we really got this one wrong"?
Ooh, great question. I'm looking. I'll vamp while I stall here and think about this because I think it is an interesting exercise, and I do think what does happen is it's like a reverse wisdom of the crowds thing, where I do worry sometimes where it's like if you don't have conviction, you end up defaulting to guys who are just the best quarterbacks in the league.
Sure.
So they end up sort of like getting pushed up because there's a whole bunch of us that vote on this, and that's great. I would say like one that really shocks me, and I don't know if I will say like the way that I did my votes on this, like, I don't know, 2 months ago, so I don't remember exactly. But we had Joe Burrow at number 2 in pocket presence, and I just couldn't believe that. This is a guy who has gotten like a lot better in this area, but taking sacks is a weakness for him. And like Joe Burrow is great at many things, but quarterbacks are not always good at everything. And so I do think like that's a good example of like he's not that great at pocket presence in the sense that he takes a lot more sacks than he probably should. I think the one another good example like that was probably like Patrick Mahomes in accuracy. Mahomes is amazing at just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
He's not one of the 3 most accurate quarterbacks. Like by basically every measure, we know that he's not, and he does get pushed up like that. So that does surprise me. Like he probably was like 9th or 10th. He was probably like 10th, I think, on my list, if I recall. So that's one. Like I think sometimes these superstars get pushed up on these lists, and I actually love looking at the guys who received at least one vote, who didn't make the top 10. Sometimes there are some interesting nuggets in there. But you know what? We get stuff. I think it's also notable then, like when a Geno Smith, comes in 5th in accuracy, and I think that's notable because it feels right to me. That's right about where I had him, and it also shows like that you have like, wow, a big group of people. We all voted, and we all came to the same conclusion, really, that Geno Smith was like a very accurate quarterback because I think he really was last year.
I think it's fair. I think that's totally fair. All right, and this is a good question that came in from Chris, so I want to give it to you before I let you go, Seth. If they're not going to trade for Chase Young, are there any of the guys that are left out there, including these guys they brought in, the Van Noys, the Clowneys, that on the numbers that you have, the data that you've got in front of you, would say you think that this person might still have a little bit more to offer and could be more helpful and maybe shouldn't still be sitting out there on the beach at this point in the summer?
Yeah, I think that there are 2 names. So Jadeveon Clowney is one. The win rate's always like, remember you described a guy that can disrupt the passer, but then doesn't finish the sack. I think Clowney is often that guy, so he's one. But I think Melvin Ingram. I mean, Melvin Ingram to me is a player that could absolutely be a contributor. His pass rush win rate last year was, I think, 19%. So good, good. To me, he's still got it. So I would say, even better than, I'm sorry. Like he was pretty solid last year. Yeah, Melvin Ingram, I think would be, he is up there in age, but I think that all indications are from last season that he's still an effective pass rusher. He's 34, but he's still doing it. I would look at Melvin Ingram for sure.
All right. I mean, I'd certainly, given what they have, they need something. They need something. I'm intrigued by Chase Young. At Seth Walder on the website formerly known as Twitter. Seth, is there anything else we can plug for you?
No, I just, you know what? We did a YouTube video of our receiver tracking metrics. We put it out last week. I posted on Twitter a few times. Go check it out. I'm really pleased with how it came out. It shows the way that we started quantifying receivers' ability to get open. I think it's a really fun metric we launched last year, and I think it's really informative for wide receivers.
Cool. I'm going to go check that out right now. I'm fascinated by it. Seth, really appreciate it, man. Thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us this morning.
Sure. Thank you.
Seth Walder from ESPN with us here on GCR. I'm intrigued by the Chase Young thing. I don't want to work. We're delving into a hypothetical. This is simply a suggestion, and hey, read the tea leaves. There's a chance to think that maybe something like this could be possible. But I can hear all the arguments for why it could make sense. So 3rd and 5th is a real price, but I get it. The argument is that like you're getting something back, so it's not if you don't sign him. At that point, either you feel so good about Chase Young that you're like, yeah, that was worth the 3rd and the 5th, or it was really, split the difference. Let's say you get a 4th round compensatory pick back. It was really like you gave up a 4th in order to get him for a year, and that's not an unwieldy cost. I don't know. I'm intrigued. We agree that something's got to give here. All right, when we come back in, we'll continue to talk a little Ravens. Evan Washburn, part of the Ravens broadcast team, and, of course, CBS, International Sideline Sex Symbol. He joins us next. Glenn Clark Radio. You feel that? That's the sound of football coming back, and now's the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use my promo code GlennClark23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code GlennClark23. All one word, no spaces, 2 N's in Glenn. Don't miss out this football season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and that promo code GlennClark23. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's the return of Grateful Dead Night on Friday the 18th. A special t-shirt package is available. Back-to-back fireworks carry on to Saturday the 19th with our Baytoberfest. Get some beer specials while you enjoy the game. And get here early on Sunday for a pregame Meet the Team autograph session. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
I'm Michael Giangrandi, president of AJ Michaels, your carrier energy expert for 44 years. Save money, energy, and make your home more comfortable and virus-free. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to marylandcyclingclassic.us.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything, I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
If you missed it last night, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, and John T-Bone Shelby got together. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab. Go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video in order to see it. Again, Stan, Ross, John Shelby, 1983 World Series champion Baltimore Orioles, all together last night for a great show talking baseball, talking the 40th anniversary. You can find it in those locations, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Let's continue some Ravens conversation this morning. Joining us now, part of the Ravens broadcast team, and of course, part of CBS's NFL coverage. He is our friend and the best-looking sideline reporter in all of sports. He is Mr. Evan Washburn, and he is back with us now here on GCR. Evan, what's going on, brother? Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, great to be with you, Glenn. Been a little while. Hope all is well.
Everything is good here. Same to you and your family, my friend. Look, man, you know how I feel about this. You can't get me to read into a preseason game. So tell me something that you saw on Saturday night that you say, hey, man, I thought this was at least interesting, worth filing away, could matter in some capacity for the Baltimore Ravens.
Ooh, that's tricky. I don't know. I'm kind of just interested to watch David Ojabo play. And I think there were flashes of good and then things that he would want back, but just comes from getting back into the swing of things. I know he got a little bit of action last year, but this is his first full healthy off season, and he comes in with a lot of internal expectations and external expectations. And you match him with Owe and what they could be moving forward if things go well. So kind of watching him in what was extended action, I think it was probably top of my list. Outside of that, to your point, it's kind of tough to make any sort of strong opinions or judgments. And that's kind of preseason, especially in Baltimore where they don't play anybody.
No doubt. Evan, I feel like what you just alluded to is something that we've been talking a lot about. And we were actually just talking, Seth Walder from ESPN had written a piece suggesting the Ravens should be trying to poke around on trading for Chase Young. I'm interested in how many of these guys the Ravens have brought in. Like, they're clearly acknowledging that there's, you want to call it a depth issue, whatever you want to call it, at edge rush, but they haven't signed any of them yet. So it seems like they think they need to address this problem, but it hasn't been addressed. I don't know. I'm in a rough place. I think that they need to give David Ojabo the shot to prove that he's the guy that everybody believed was a first-round talent. But boy, you are putting a lot of hopes at the moment on a duo of David Ojabo and Odafe Owe, who have not to this point, either of them, proved that they're capable of being exceptional NFL pass rushers.
Yeah, but they haven't really been given the opportunity to prove it. So I think it's short-sighted to say, and then it's like, what are we doing? Why do we draft guys high if we're not going to actually let them get an extended look at that position? And then like Tyus Bowser will eventually come back, you would hope. So he's part of that mix. I think, look, it's part of they're a prisoner of their recent moves where they have brought in veteran pass rushers, whether it was Jason Pierre-Paul, obviously Houston for a couple of years. And so the idea that they would do that again is not off the the radar. But to me, it just feels like they've kind of built to this spot where it goes, all right, we've invested a lot of draft equity into these two players. One is now healthy. We're going to have some growing pains based off of the fact of their limited NFL experience, but it could pay massive dividends if they do what we expect them to do. And then we didn't not only waste the equity on them, but then had to overspend to bring in even a guy of Chase Young's pedigree.
No, I understand. Look, somebody would say it's a sink or swim type of thing, but I get it. Like, and especially as you move into the Lamar Jackson contract era, these draft picks become all the more critical. You've got to hit on these guys. What? Did we lose Evan? I think we might have lost Evan. I apologize. We'll try to get him back. Evan Washburn from CBS. Don't know what was going on there, but we'll try to chase him back down. No pun intended, as we were talking about Chase Young. And I mean this. I to an extent, I agree. Like, I understand. And I have said all along that one of the things that's jumped out at me is it's just seemed like the Ravens have wanted to get younger, maybe faster up front. Not just at edge rush, but also based on what they've done along the defensive line. Like, they let Calais Campbell, Justin Houston have walked, and they've replaced them with nothing. Again, I don't think any of us are as concerned about the defensive line because we think highly of, Broderick Washington and Matabike and Travis Jones. So I don't think we have nearly as much concern, although they did lose a lot of leadership in Calais Campbell. But it has just come off like they wanted to get younger at those positions. They got to find out exactly what they have in those spots. Evan Washburn back with us here on GCR. And I get it, Evan. And it's funny because I feel like I've walked this line of particularly now that Lamar Jackson has his contract in the coming years, you're going to almost be forced to get younger. Like, you can't just constantly be chasing money. You're going to have to count on, you made a draft pick, you believe that guy's the guy, but it's a chicken and the egg conversation. You want it to be that way, but at the same time, it is still kind of scary when to go into a season and to have such an unknown at such a significant position.
And because it just hasn't been the case for a long time.
Right.
I mean, look, they haven't really necessarily replaced a guy like Terrell Suggs, but they've had name brand players at least one edge for the last few years. So that gives comfort to a fan base, a media corps, and maybe the coaches. But I think you're spot on. And look, if something were to drop into their lap, I don't think Eric Acosta would ignore it just to be stubborn on his draft picks. But it doesn't seem to me, in the time listening to coaches, even as recent as last week, as we got ready for that preseason game, talk about those two players, that they have any concern going into this thing.
What about at cornerback, Evan? Because I feel like that was, again.
That is concerning.
Right. Okay, right. Like, I feel like that's the one where you say, boy, there's Marlon Humphrey, and then there's what? And I get it. Marlon Humphrey's very good, but boy, I don't know how you address it because the guys that are out there for a reason. But man, it's hard to look at that group and not feel like you're putting yourself in a really tough spot where that could ultimately end up dooming you at some point.
Yeah, and look, they got Rock Yassin. He's been banged up. I think that's where you're already getting an early look, and John was open about that, even I think at his press conference last week, where, it's concerning because they don't necessarily view it as they have a lack of depth, but right now they just have a lack of guys playing because they're all kind of nicked up with little things. And you would hope that they would get through those and they're all available. But it's a window into what it could look like in week 7 when, if a couple guys go down, that thin cornerback position that's kind of always is a fear of teams is a reality. And so how that's addressed at this point, to your point, because there's just not a lot of good options out there, is hard to kind of lay out. So I think the hope is guys get healthy.
Yeah.
They're the best version of themselves, and you just cross your fingers that they don't get banged up over the course of the season. But that's hard to bet on. And then you think about what you're going up against over the course of the year in Cincinnati, and obviously any team like a Kansas City, or if you're playing somebody in the AFC East in a playoff game, you want to have some guys out on the outside and in the nickel. And right now there's a lot of question marks.
Evan, I have a theory, and I get that they could never come out and outright address this or answer it directly. No one would ever be able to do that. But I've had this theory that And watching the fact that they didn't replace a Marcus Peters or a Calais Campbell or a Justin Houston this offseason, and yet what they did on the other side of the ball, that what they're kind of outwardly saying is, hey, in this Lamar Jackson contract era, the defensive issues that you're concerned with, our answer is we think we need to do more offensively. Like, that's really how we're trying to address those defensive problems that you have is we think we should be able to score more points, and we're going to need to score some more points. And I get it. They're never going to say they have lesser expectations for their defense, and they certainly did give $20 million a year to Roquan Smith, who was very good. But do you think it's possible that they've just shifted a little bit? Not to say they want to be the St. Louis Rams, the greatest show on turf, or all offense, no defense, but that the burden of how they're going to win is going to have to fall a little bit more to the other side of the ball.
Makes a lot of sense, and the model's out there, and it's hard to match this because what they've done over the last few years is special, and they have a special player, but some would believe, and I think in times Lamar's been that player. Kansas City's defense lives in the middle of the pack.
Right.
They are at times, between 15 and 20 in total defense and points allowed and all those key categories. And the marching orders for that group is obviously be impactful as best you can, but just don't lose us games. And you don't have to be the 2000 Ravens, but we need you to be a group that we can count on to, again, not lose those games and make some plays when you can. But you look at their personnel, obviously they have Chris Jones and they've had Tyrann Mathieu in the past, but they're not littered with Pro Bowlers, especially in their secondary. In their corner position is guys that have rotated in and out over the last few years. So, but it all puts that pressure on Mahomes and Andy Reid and that offense, and they've always been up to the task. So I think that's a version you could see, and I'm sure fans would love to see because it's exciting and it's entertaining. I mean, to me, they are a bit of a unicorn in that way, though, because I think of Buffalo. I'm thinking of other explosive offenses,
right?
And they've actually been matched with some pretty good defenses, even in Cincinnati, in Buffalo, and some of the better teams, at least in the AFC, that I can think of.
And to your point, I don't think anybody's expecting that this defense is going to be bad. And I also think that Kansas City is a unique comparison because they've been a team in recent years that has drafted someone and said, yeah, and now we immediately have expectations for you. Like, you have to go live up to it. And they kind of got by last year because their draft picks were pretty good and stepped on the field and played pretty quickly and made an impact, and they were able to do just enough defensively because of it. And what we were talking about with David Ajabo, Odafe Owe, that might be the model of, hey, we kind of don't have a choice. If we draft you, you got to go out there and play. We can't sit around and wait to figure it out. We got to throw you out there and make sure that you do it.
And look, that's kind of where we started with it. I'm optimistic because I just think you think for Owe in year 3, his limited just football experience in general, he seems like a guy that has a comfort with playing football at this level. So when the natural gifts match the sort of mental confidence and command of what you're supposed to do at the position and the investment the organization's made and the pass rush specialist at the coaching position, like a true edge rush coach. And then Ajabo, the words used about him in camp have been violent and all the things you want for that position. I just think there are going to be growing pains because specific to him, it's a lot of new in terms of workload.
Evan, as far as the offense is concerned, obviously there's so much conversation about the wide receiver. You know as well as anyone that it's been very rare that there has been this level of investment at that position in the history of this franchise. Should we just assume that this is a perfect group of receivers to put on the field together? Should we still have a little bit of questions of like, hey, what exactly is Odell Beckham at this point? How quickly can Zay Flowers adapt to this? Like, how confident should we be in this group that is unlike most groups the Ravens have ever put together in their history?
I mean, I would say excitement level should be at an all-time high for all the reasons you laid out, where all the pieces are there. My concern would be just the idea that you're going to hit the ground running with so many new pieces is naive. And I temper whenever I talk. I mean, like you're always talking to folks out and about, and family, friends, all those things. Like, oh, how great this offense going to be? It's like, well, it could be great in week 6, week 7. Like I mean, the idea that out of the gate it's going to be everything you want it to be, to me, is a challenge, because as much as it's new wide receivers and it's a new play caller, it's a new offense, it's a lot of new for everybody. And the one thing I feel confident about, watching this league and doing what we do over the last 10 years now, it's just continuity and chemistry is king. And if you don't have it and you can't rush it, it's time on task, it's reps, it's doing it in live action where you can face the unexpected. All those things can't be born in training camp as much as they're going to be felt in, again, the first few weeks of the season. So that's not to say it's going to be a disaster out of the gate by any means, but I just think what everyone hopes it can be, fireworks and big plays and explosive offense, I think that is probably more of a kind of wait and see.
Yeah, week 2 game at Cincinnati is going to be a hell of a test for exactly where.
That's the rub, though, is you can't. We're just the way it's stacked up in their division and in the AFC as a whole. Not that you ever want to get off to a slow start, but to me, it just was like you gotta stay above. Above water as long as you can, because if you start drowning early, the math doesn't help you.
I feel like
a good team.
I feel like I've given this question to everyone that I've talked to this summer, which is this is a murderer's row. To your point, like it's funny. It's funny. Of course, this would be the year that like CBS has to share the AFC a little bit more, right, with Fox.
But I would say that seemed to be more of a blur. I mean that. While I'm doing an NFC game in week 3, we still are loaded with AFC.
I did notice.
Like all of a sudden we're doing Cowboys, Commanders, and I think the natural rivalries will still exist. It would appear.
Pretty good first 2 weeks for your crew. I did see you had Cincinnati, Cleveland, and then Kansas City, Jacksonville. Not a bad start for your crew to the season. But to your point, what you're saying is this conference is so loaded that if you were to slow start a little bit, you might put yourself in a really bad spot because it's not going to be easy to overtake the absurd number of good teams with unbelievable quarterbacks that exist in the AFC at the moment.
It's wild. And the teams know it, and most importantly or most interestingly, the quarterbacks know it. I go on that training camp tour every year and hit about 10 teams that our crew will most likely see multiple times. And I was talking to one notable quarterback, and we were just kind of catching up before doing an interview, and I was asking him some version of what we're talking about, and he made the point, and it's obvious, but to hear it from him and he kind of said it in that like concerning way, where he goes, yeah, there's going to be 1 or 2 really good quarterbacks that aren't making the playoffs.
Right. And
that's not normal. Like the top tier, however you want to describe it, quarterbacks usually at least make it in, and it's because that's how we judge them. And it's a big indictment on you as a quarterback if you don't make the playoffs. And it was a realization that I'm sure they're all having, and I know this one has, is, man, there's going to be 1 or 2 of us that aren't getting in, and that's just based off of there's not enough seats at the table.
Correct. The sheer math don't work. At Evan Washburn on Twitter is how you follow him. What's the week look like for you? I know that you guys aren't doing the Ravens game on Monday night, but I'm sure you got 100 other things that you got to do instead.
Well, a couple free days here, and then I'll head up to New York. I fill in for Adam Shine on his weekly or his nightly show when he wants to take some vacay. So I'll do that Wednesday through Friday of this week, and enjoy some of these last free weekends before we kind of get into the routine of it all. But it's exciting to be back, man. I mean, I'm sure for you, it's talking every day.
It's been weird though, bro. You say that this has been the summer where like I'm totally behind because we've actually like talking about baseball has been wonderful, right? Like I've never been more behind.
I'm going to my first Orioles game next.
Wait, dude. How long have you lived here?
No, not first. Like
okay.
I mean first. That would.
I'm like, what the hell?
I get kicked out. No, but I haven't probably been since I was helping run around with Deuce and Brent for the Orioles game back in 10 years ago. It's probably been a healthy 10 since I've been to a game.
That's wild, man. That's wild. It's been a hell of a summer, so that'll be cool.
Fun.
Family good? Everything good?
Yeah, no, it's been great. It's been great.
Awesome.
Hudson's 7, and he'll be going to his first Orioles game.
Oh, that's cool, man. Dude, so
that'll be great.
mine are 8 and 6, and I took them to the superhero day earlier this season that they did.
Ooh, that's cool.
And, bro, it was the wildest moment ever because they were like, they announced, hey, and now you can go meet the Black Panther in center field. And my 6-year-old's like, all right, let's go. And I look at my 8-year-old. I said, all right, buddy, you want to go? He said, no, I want to stay here and watch the game. And I was like, whoa, what a moment this is. Like,
sounds like
it
a
is.
future talk show host.
Oh, I hope better for him. I so hope better for him and the path I've had. Love you, brother. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on, dude.
Always. Yeah. Talk to you later.
Evan Washburn from CBS with us here on GCR. Appreciate him doing that. Man, well, this is exciting. There is what do I have in my hot little hands right here? That looks like a new print issue of Press Box that I have in my hands.
Wow.
That's awesome. And as we promised, as you heard Stan and I talking about on Friday's show with Bo Smolka, you see that coming up, the next print issue of Press Box, the cover story is all about Lamar Jackson. You see how far Lamar and sort of the post-contract era that we now enter into with Lamar Jackson, and Bo dives into the expectations and what it's going to take for Lamar Jackson to move forward as that guy. So I'm looking forward to this. I got to be honest with you. Normally, I've had the entire issue before it hits stands. Nobody sent it to me. No one did.
It's fresh off the press.
Yeah, I'll be reading a lot of this myself, but I'll look forward to diving into Bo's cover story. A lot of college football content in this print issue of Press Box as well, as we meet players from the teams across the state of Maryland. It'll be available, probably not quite yet, because literally it was just brought to me. So we're in the in-between of the Tony Siragusa issue, which is going, and this one, which is coming. By tomorrow, you'll be able to find it everywhere. So this print issue of Press Box, brand new, Lamar Jackson on the cover. You can read more at PressBoxOnline.com. Go pick it up right now. All right. Well, I said right now, if it's available right now, but by tomorrow for sure. Come back in. A few topics I want to get into today. I do want to talk about the Michael Orr situation, the irony of the Michael Orr situation, and also I want to play AITA, which you may know from Reddit is, am I the a-hole? Am I that?
Well, with you, the answer is always.
Well, I don't think so. Not in this case.
Oh, okay.
But I'll allow you to share your opinion about it, Griffin, and see if I can't get a neutral. I do worry that you feel like you have to say a certain thing, but we'll see as neutral as you're capable of being given the circumstances.
Okay.
So all things I want to cover. Also, Disco Dan Ford joins us in the second hour of the show. It's all coming up on GCR.
Catch that festival feeling in Charm City. Everywhere you go, you'll find exciting entertainment, delicious eats, and endless summertime fun. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards, pick crabs by the waterfront, beat the heat inside a world-class museum, and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
It's game on every day at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Here, you are in on every play with 100-foot screens at Sports and Social, the best table games action, and FanDuel Sportsbook, all just steps away. The best bar bites and drinks to indulgent steaks and curated cocktails. Your game day only gets better when matched up with Live's distinguished dining options. Late game? No problem. Our luxury hotel awaits. Live Casino and Hotel Maryland is the place to be on game day and every day. For more information, visit www.maryland.livecasinohotel.com. At Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource. Home to EasyPass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com. We'll keep you moving.
The Orioles are off and running, out to prove that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are one of the best teams in baseball. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, host of the Bat Around for Press Box. Tune in every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon as Zach Goodman and I break down every Adley bomb, every Tony Tater, and every save from the mountain. Like a warm hug from Rutschman, the Bat Around has you covered with all things Orioles as we embark on what's sure to be a magical summer in Birdland. So tune in every Saturday for the best in Orioles coverage right here on the Bat Around.
another exciting weekend of affordable family fun at Prince George's Stadium with the Bowie Bay Sox. It's the return of Grateful Dead Night on Friday the 18th. A special t-shirt package is available. Back-to-back fireworks carry on to Saturday the 19th with our Baytoberfest. Get some beer specials while you enjoy the game. And get here early on Sunday for a pregame Meet the Team autograph session. Get your tickets now by calling 301-805-6000 or anytime online at baysox.com. The Bowie Bay Sox. Let us be your 9-inning vacation.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Dave Ginsburg remembers Goose as he looks back on the impact that late Tony Saragusa had both on and off the field here in Baltimore. Plus, he explains how Goose's kids are working to continue that legacy with the Goose Flights program. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles the path Tyler Wells has taken to becoming a star in the Orioles rotation. And you'll find a special summer travel guide with information about events and activities throughout the state. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Orioles on the Immaculate Grid today. I don't want to give anything away, so I won't say anything.
I pulled a 0.3%.
That was good. My Oriole Ranger was a 1%er. That was my low number. I didn't have anything below 1% today, unfortunately. Did not go below 1%. But whatever. Life goes on. That's what it is. Somebody here?
John was just standing in the doorway.
Hey, pal. How are you? Well, we spent 5 minutes on that just a minute ago. We were just talking about it. All right, very good. John Colson's here. All right, so let me cover a couple of things really quickly. First of all, just horrendous news about Alex Collins passing. I don't even know what to say. It's just awful, truly awful. Alex Collins, of course, had the one big season in Baltimore in 2017. I didn't know Alex Collins particularly well. I think I had a couple of conversations with him when he was here. Enjoyed him, was a very nice guy, was clearly a talented back. I remember I had pitched him the idea of writing something about the famous story of his mother, her reaction to him committing to Arkansas. It was like she was trying to prevent him from doing it. It was a whole thing, and I'm trying to remember exactly how it was like she had to sign the letter of intent because when you're a minor, like I guess your parents have to sign it too, and she literally ran away with it because she wanted him to go to Miami and didn't want him to go out to Arkansas. So when the Ravens signed Alex Collins, I was like, wasn't that the guy with the LOI thing? And I pitched the idea, and he just didn't. He was like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, everything's fine, but I just kind of don't want to revisit that at this point in my life. And I was like, that's fine. I'm not, I'm certainly fine with that. Everybody knows about the Irish dancing. I think that somebody shared a video I had forgotten about. Like, there was a boy that was apparently bullied because he was so into Irish dancing, and Alex Collins took the time to go meet this young man and spend time with him, which I think was really wonderful. There was... Unfortunately, he was involved in a car crash and was arrested, and the Ravens decided to let him go after he had been suspended. And nothing that was terribly significant, nothing that you would say this would impact in any way the stories that I had been told about what a good guy he was. It's just unthinkably sad. I mean, truly unthinkably sad. He was attempting to come back to football after being out of the NFL. He had played in the USFL this season. Just awful. Just a truly atrocious, awful story. And his 2017 season was very good. I mean, it's a shame because that was a team that, pre-Lamar Jackson was just not quite good enough. But safe home, obviously, and thoughts to everybody that knew Alex Collins, who was, in my interactions, a good guy. I don't want to pretend like I knew him well. Philip Walls, who runs LGC Marketing, knew him really well and was telling a lot of stories about Alex Collins last night, and some really wonderful things about him. I wish I had known him better, but just unfathomable to lose someone at the age of 28. Just truly unfathomable. So thoughts to Alex Collins and the people that knew and loved him. The story that yesterday kind of shook the internet and was really mind-blowing in a different way, obviously, in a far less important way than someone losing their life, was this Michael Orr story, and that Michael Orr is suing the Toohey family. And it's a complicated story because I think anyone that was around Michael Orr during his time in Baltimore knew there was no ambiguity about how he felt about that film. There was no, yeah, it's pretty cool. He had zero interest in it. He wanted no association with it. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't want to say he despised it. I don't want to say anything like that. But I would tell you that all of us that, Michael Orr did my show a ton of times. And I would talk to him in the locker room, and he would actually get really angry because he would be ribbed about it by teammates. He did not want to be the blindside guy. And I think a lot of us understood that, hey, you want to carve out your own path. You don't just want to be associated with this movie. But he explained from time to time some of the things that bothered him about it, right? And some of it was the Hollywoodization of the film. You can't be mad at, I think it was Disney who made that film. You can't be mad at them because they were trying to present a good story. But the absurdity of suggesting that the Sandra Bullock character, Leanne Toohey, taught Michael Orr how to play football is badass. It's utter nonsensical. And other elements, like his relationship with his birth mother, simply weren't true. And when he wrote his book, I had read, Michael Lewis's book, which was about the story, but really about the left tackle position, and it's why the movie opens up with that scene of Joe Theismann having his leg broken by Lawrence Taylor, because he references that in this book and about the left tackle position and the importance of it. So, I had kind of known some of these things that maybe didn't line up with what was presented in the movie, but I understood, and when I would talk about the movie, I would say, look, this is a movie. This is on us. It's like when somebody gets bothered by, hey, the thing about Captain Phillips is, some people say it didn't really happen that way, and you're like, right, it's a movie. It's not a documentary. The other side of it, though, what I would say, however, is that Michael Orr never wavered in how he felt about the Toohey family when he was here. There was never anything that suggested they were anything other than some sort of unit, whatever you want to call that. And famously, Sean Toohey Jr., the little boy from the film, he came to work at Loyola. I want to say was on the basketball roster at Loyola. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure he was. To be here and to be closer and to be more of a unit, and that part of it never, as his frustration towards the movie and what that was, never crossed into a conversation that you would have about the Tooheys with him. He truly loved the Tooheys and was appreciative of them, as was kind of made clear in this ESPN story about the lawsuit yesterday. That has changed recently. And I think it was later confirmed, Sean Toohey, the father of the family, gave a statement to TMZ and was like, I noticed that this started to become contentious a year and a half ago. So that's more recent. Now, admittedly, I'm going to guess that when this week I dive into this book that I was sent, When Your Back's Against the Wall, the second book that Michael Orr has written, I assume that some of that will be covered in this book. And I'm going to read it this week because we are scheduled to be joined in studio by Michael Orr next Monday, which timing-wise is kind of wild. I had a conversation with his publicist, and she had said, hey, Michael's going to be in town on the 21st. Would you want him to stop by the studio? And I had actually, being the team player that I am, coordinated that he's going to stop by and see Jeremy first and then come over here right afterwards. So in hindsight, maybe I regret that and say we got to go back and redo that order.
Hopefully Jeremy doesn't say anything.
Yeah, right? You son of a bitch. Just me being a nice guy, me being a team player, the whole thing. I was like, yeah, we all like Michael. I'm sure it's a neat story. Like, we'll talk to him about it, and then as it turns out, it's a significant news story. And like an idiot, I'm letting Jeremy have it first. Stupid. What am I doing? But ours will be better. So, I'll be diving into the book this week, and I'll try to get as much information as possible. It certainly doesn't sound bad. I think a lot of us always felt like just a tinge of like, there's something hinky about all this.
Right.
And funny, like that's part of what the book and the movie were about was like the NCAA, the way they were looking at all of this. Like, yeah, really? You adopted this kid and now you're trying to point him to your alma mater, the place that you donate a lot of money to? That seems kind of weird. But in the world that we understand now about how effed up college sports were, like none of us really blinks an eye. If Michael Orr stood to benefit from that relationship and the trade-off was that he had to go to Ole Miss, like if Michael Orr felt like he benefited, I don't give a rat's ass. Who cares what you're doing in order to try to get a kid to go to a school? Like if the young man, the athlete benefits from it, like you're just not going to get me to care or think that it's problematic within the rules. And that was one of the storylines that was discussed in the book and the movie was the awkwardness with the NCAA. But the situation was always odd. And the situation, I remember talking about this in light of the St. Francis thing with Biff Poggi, where there would be people that would try to present Biff Poggi as some sort of like hero figure. And I was never comfortable with that. Like, no. Biff Poggi wants to win football games. He's not spending his money to send, cellists to St. Francis. He's not spending his money to send community organizers to St. Francis. He's spending his money to try to get the best possible football players that he can because he wants to win football. And that's his right. I want to make it abundantly clear. This is not me trying to be negative towards Biff Poggi. He has the money. He can do whatever he wants to do with the money. He's now going to try to go win at Charlotte. But the idea of him being some sort of like hero figure because of how much money he was spending to give these kids an opportunity to go to a place like St. Francis that they would have otherwise never had, it was because they were good at football, or he thought they would be good at football. Like that's the reason. And he was the football coach. He wanted to win. That's not hard. It's not, there's nothing heroic about that. It's, whatever the rules are, that's what he was doing. Eventually the MIAA said, well, we think that should be beside the rule. And that's a conversation for a different day. But like, I would say the same thing, that the positioning of the Tuohys as being some sort of heroic figures is complicated by the fact that like, their kids went to this school in a place where they cared deeply about high school football and that they also had interest in him going to Ole Miss. It doesn't mean that I don't know that the Tuohys ever did good things for Michael Orr. Again, that Michael Orr didn't benefit from the relationship, but it was always complicated. And the Green Book is another one that's talked about, like this idea of the white savior of the person that's the actual talent or artist or figure of relevance has always been hanky. And I never knew exactly how to feel about this. This element of it doesn't seem great. Now, Sean Tuohy Sr. says this is not true. We really didn't make any money off the blind side. We didn't prevent Michael got as much of a cut as the rest of us got. The conservatorship was because legally I wasn't allowed to adopt him, and if he wants out, then I'm happy. Like, it's a complicated story that I hope, again, I'll get more answers from reading this book or from when Michael Orr is scheduled to come in and sit down next to us next Monday to talk about it, because it is a complicated story. And I do think that there can be gray area involved with this. But I've never thought of the Tuohys as being heroic in any sort of way. That doesn't make them evil. Like, there's a giant gap between those two things. And it might be that the truth is that they were trying to be good people. They just might have screwed it up. Or they might have been opportunistic. It's somewhere in there. But I don't think it's evil or heroes. I think it's somewhere between those things. And I'll, look forward to reading more about it. It's obviously, we all watched the movie. We all were invested in Michael Orr. And, for better or for worse, he did. Like, the left tackle thing never worked out for Michael Orr, but when Michael Orr played right tackle, not only was he the starting right tackle for a team that won the Super Bowl, but he played well at right tackle. Just unfortunately never played at a high level at left tackle, which is why ultimately the Ravens were willing to let him move on in his career, and he ended up down in Carolina. But he was a good football player. And I think we judged him unfairly, one, because he was a pop culture figure, and two, because the expectation was that he was going to be a high-level left tackle, and he just never became that. Bizarre story, though, man. Just crazy, crazy story. And hopefully we'll get more. And again, Michael Orr scheduled to join us next Monday morning in the 10 a.m. hour. All right, let's switch gears a little bit this morning and remind you that all season long we've been celebrating the 40th anniversary of the Baltimore Orioles' 1983 World Series championship, and we've had a wonderful time catching up with the heroes of that team. It was obviously great to see them all back here in Baltimore a couple weekends ago as the Orioles swept the Mets. It was a very emotional scene for all of us that were there. Our next guest, this man enjoyed listening to some Parliament and Funkadelic before games. This man hit a hell of a home run in Game 3 of the 1983 World Series off of Steve Carlton. He also, early in the season, hit a pretty important home run to break up a no-hitter in a game that the Orioles won against the White Sox. He is the great Disco Dan Ford, and he is with us now here on GCR. Dan, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's so great to chat with you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Great to be here this morning. Good to talk to you.
Dan, I think I need to get it out of the way first. Are you still, years later, listening to Parliament and Funkadelic at all times? Like, would people still refer to you as Disco Dan Ford, even if you had never been baseball player Disco Dan Ford?
No, not really. I've just always been a fan of music, and friends of mine always had that interest also, and it's always good to loosen up some days on a good sound.
When you arrived in Baltimore, you had not been through what the guys that were here in '79 had been through. When you got here, did you have a feeling? Did you say, "Man, look around! Like, this Murray guy looks pretty good. This Ripken kid showing some." Did you know then, I'm gonna be able to win a World Series here?
Well, when you speak of '79, I was with the Angels when they played us, and they beat us in the playoffs. So
true.
Yes, I looked at that club, and and we only won one game, and I remember the game that we lost when we had a number of runs, and they still came back to beat us. And the pitching staff has always been a great pitching staff. You've always had a tradition of winning. So when I got traded to the Orioles, of course, that was one reason that I went there, and I was chosen by, Earl Weaver.
Obviously, we referenced this team, and there's so many personalities, so many guys, and I think one of the biggest things that was brought up about this team was how many outfielders that this team had. Did you ever look around at all and just say, like, wow, how are all of these guys on this team at once?
Well, when I was acquired to come to the Orioles, that was one of my concerns. And Ken Singleton was out there playing right field too, and like that. So they said, well, you're gonna be the right fielder. That's what Earl told me, and therefore that's what helped make a decision to come to the Orioles. And being platoon out there in left with Reineke and Lowenstein, I mean, you put those numbers together. If that was one player, they had a hell of a year. And with the two, so that just made two guys have a hell of a year. And the other guys that really pitched in and came along and played, and that's what it took for us to win.
You had a hell of a year that in '83 too, Dan. Obviously, a very good season for you. After '82, which I'm gonna guess in your mind was a little bit of a disappointment, what was different in '83? Like, what allowed you to be the guy that we had seen during your time in Anaheim and in Minnesota?
I believe from coming from Anaheim, as far as being at home there, I'm from California, so that really helped and loosened me up and kept me, I guess, at the peak of my career. Making that move to Baltimore, to the East, a different division, and when I got there, they were saying we played baseball a little different here. I said, how can you play baseball different here? We play 9 innings. We play between the lines. Three strikes you out. No, we played to win, and we played, percentages and things of that nature. Benny Ayala used to talk to me about that quite a bit, and it took me, I guess, that whole year to really understand exactly what he really meant. So 82 was a pressure year, it's an adjustment year. Plus, playing for Earl Weaver was a little hard, and I had, and that's what really put a lot of pressure on me. So 83 made it a little easier for us to adjustment, and I had to really think about what was the difference as far as my play compared to 83 season, which was the results. The effort was still there as far as me working hard on both years. It's just the results that came out to be different, and it helped by me, I guess, switching from hitting fifth behind Eddie Murray, which is a big shoes to follow. In 82, 83, I hit second. So I was hitting in front of Eddie, in front of Cal, and that made things a little easier too.
Yeah, they're not going to give you quite as many pitches when they know that those guys like they're gonna have to try to go after you, and you're gonna be able to take the opportunity. Dan Ford is with us here on GCR, celebrating the 40th anniversary of the 1983 Orioles World Series championship. Dan, I've never asked you this question before. Your stance was pretty unique as far as batting stances go. Where did it come from? Why did it work for you?
Oh, boy, I think it was a matter of adjustments as far as being the kind of hitter that I was using that stance. Early in my career, I used to have a stance that strictly pull hitter with the Twins, hitting 15 to 20 home runs. I think one year I still struck out 100 times. So I try to narrow that down over the course of my years of playing. Even with the Angels, I still had pretty much an open stance, a pull hitter, and probably through that time of watching Rod Carew and playing with him for 5 years taught me to hit the ball, from line to line. So with that and adjustments that pitchers had made with me, made me make adjustments to them. So therefore, depends on where I was hitting, what team I was on, and circumstances brought upon that stance. And I tell you, you go to the drawing board and you look at that and you say, how does he do it? Even when I looked at it, I said, how did I do it? It was just a number of combinations of adjustments that really, really, really worked for me.
Dan, you obviously, everybody remembers Game 3 of the World Series and the home run off of Steve Carlton. Everything that you accomplished in baseball, where does that moment rank for you in everything that you had done?
Well, naturally, playing in the World Series and winning and hitting a home run in the World Series, too, is always and always will be one of my highlights. And strictly based upon when you said the pitcher, that would be a highlight also. So, yes, that would be something that I always will remember, and that's a conversation that I always have, and a lot of times my good friends, and they will always bring that up, and which is a good feeling.
You are a team that handled adversity quite well, right? Everybody brings up 2 separate 7-game losing streaks during that season. What was it about the 83 Orioles that none of that type of stuff affected you guys?
Well, we always had somebody, I guess, stepping up that as far as being the leader of that day or that game. We didn't always depend on Eddie. We didn't always depend on Cal or Kenny, to really come with big hits and things of that nature. So we had a number of guys, that really did a lot of clutch playing, clutch hitting, and as a combination of 9 players on the field, it took all 9 to really, really come through. And that's what really I saw, in each and every given day. You had to come to play. You had to come to win. And whatever way it was that we needed to win, that's what we did.
That was evident. That was clearly the case. You winning the World Series, it was the only one that you would win in your career. What did it mean to you then? And I'm going to ask this question. Dan, I want to ask if I could, because I brought this up with Al as well, because your path to baseball was a little bit different. That's obviously far different than the path that anybody now in modern times is taking to the game of baseball. But even still then was a little bit different, having served previously. And Al and I were talking about this. Do you feel like your path made it mean a little bit more, maybe even to you, than it might have to other guys?
Well, yeah, I think over the course of I guess, the game in my career, you look at certain teams, it was always dominant, especially, you say, well, the Yankees, how many World Series they won, and you look at the players that they had, look at the Dodgers, and all of a sudden you look at Boston, and you look at a number of other teams, and here it is, certain guys that, they would always be there, and they've had 3 World Series under their belts and things of that nature. And, I played with Rod Carew over his course of career and never made it to a World Series. So here it is for me, been with the Orioles, and here I am at close to the end of my career, winning and playing in the World Series, let alone winning it. So, yes, I mean, the path has always been different for a lot of guys, but the goal has always been the same.
Has your perspective on it changed over 40 years? Like, have you grown to appreciate it even more over 40 years? Like that?
Oh, yeah. I'm talking to you because of 1983.
Yeah, I get it, right? I get it. I mean, like, do you still have people that like ask, like, hey, you're not Disco Dan Ford, are you? Like, do you have that still?
Oh yeah, quite a bit. I still get around, I guess, as far as alumni stuff. I go over to Angel Stadium here when I'm in California and see people, and that name comes up. It's probably with a nickname that probably will always be. And we talk about the 79. Oh, yeah, I remember when in 79.
Right.
I said, yeah, but you haven't. Where did I go after that? Based upon because of 79. So, that was the step for me in that nature. So even coming to Baltimore, and people always, just like you bring that up. And it's always been, from that point of 83 on, a really good feeling, a good conversation, and I don't, I wouldn't change it for the world.
Coming back here a couple weeks ago, and not just being with the guys, which I know would have been special in any circumstance, but that atmosphere that night at the ballpark and the way the Orioles are playing right now and a completely sold-out crowd, can you put into words how special that evening was on top of, spending the time with the guys?
Well, when we talked about coming and we looked at who was coming, and and some guys, a couple of guys didn't make it because they had some illness in their family, but really special time. And on Friday night they had the luncheon and it was sold out. I said, man, we are still selling out crowds here. So I just go to show you. I said, man, look here. Then we looked at the guys, and and then the day of the event, as far as my MVP, which is Rick Dempsey.
Yeah.
And he's a character, and he's always been a guy that lights up the team and lights up the fans and just lights up the room when he's in there. And and everybody else that came along, and we talk and tell our little stories and reminisce. And so yes, it's just, man, a special time.
Did it feel a little bit like Memorial Stadium that night? Like, it's never going to be Memorial Stadium was such a special place, right? But did the atmosphere that night, like, and you mentioned Rick whipping everybody up with the Orioles chant, and did it feel a little bit about like what it felt like to play at Memorial Stadium in the 1980s?
Well, like with us in the stadium, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what we was reminiscing, Memorial Stadium play, Memorial Stadium players, Memorial Stadium time, and the World Series in itself was the winning tradition of that era. So yes, I mean, when we stepped out on the field, you look at the stadium, and if you close your eyes a little bit, you just imagine it's still that same feeling, that same place, that same atmosphere as far as Memorial Stadium.
And then how about this team here? I don't know how much you follow. I don't know how much, relationship you have, and how much affinity you still feel towards the Orioles over the years. But this is kind of fun, the baseball that's being played in Baltimore right now, Dan.
Well, yes. It's, I guess a surprise, really. I don't know if they put together a team to say, well, this is going to be a winning year for us. But overall, I think a lot of guys over there are young. A lot of guys have really stepped up to really try to prove themselves. And, but, here we go in these last 6 weeks of the season. That's where you really think about winning instead of just playing. So that will make the difference. We'll see exactly who they are, what they are, and hopefully they'll keep it going.
From your lips to God's ears, my friend. May that be the case. Dan, what's life look like for you these days? What are you up to?
Oh, man, I'm 70 years old now, so I take it as easy as I can get it. I still have my little horse ranch that I still train and do things of that nature. So I'm back and forth from Louisiana to California, doing things of that nature.
That's awesome. That sounds like it's not such a bad life. That sounds like it's all right. Dan.
Oh, yeah, easy road, easy coming, yeah.
Dan, it was such a wonderful weekend having you guys back, and it's been so much fun for me reminiscing 40 years later on what made that team so special and delivered a championship. May that 40-year drought come to an end, and may there be more people joining your club of Orioles World Series champions here soon. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning. Really enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Disco Dan Ford, 1983 World Series champion, of course. A home run off of Steve Carlton. Appreciate him taking the time for us. And, yeah, even though we've passed celebration, our plan is to continue doing this until we get to the World Series, hopefully. Other guys that we're still working on, but we've had a great summer catching up with the members of the 1983 World Series Orioles. I didn't really get any time. So yesterday we got the news during the show, of course, that J.K. Dobbins was going to be activated off of PUP, but we didn't, we had to see what that meant. And we did get our answer. This was apparently coordinated between he and the What are the odds that John Harbaugh said he was 100%? Real weird how that worked out. Totally fine. So strange. How, can you believe that? That it just all worked out that way? That's crazy. What are the odds?
Yeah, it's great. He can earn his money now.
I'm glad that this didn't get to that point. The things that we had been talking about in the past couple of weeks,
start finding him, that kind of.
Do the Ravens have to activate him and start finding him? Is there a point at which J.K. Dobbins just says, I'm not going to play for you anymore? I'm very glad that none of those things end up being conversations that we have to have. It doesn't make this a dead issue, though. There's still awkwardness here. The way there is for, any other running back. It's just that J.K. Dobbins isn't quite at the level of some of those other running backs. I don't know what it ends up being. I don't know if J.K. Dobbins says, look, I'm going to play, but I'll never play another down for you after this. I'm just going to get to this point. Don't you dare franchise tag me. I don't know if J.K. Dobbins reads the tea leaves, and if he gets tagged, has a great season, gets tagged afterwards, he says, well, I'm not doing better, so I'm just going to have to deal with it. I don't know. I don't know what's next. Those will be problems for future Glenn Clark Radio. For now, the Ravens are a better team with J.K. Dobbins than without him. I think the next question will be, if the Ravens are confident that J.K. Dobbins is in game shape and ready for a full workload by week 1, what does that mean for Melvin Gordon? There is some real money involved, I think in the neighborhood of $1 million. So I don't think that they just want to release him. But presumably Melvin Gordon's not going to be a guy that's going to be helping you out in special teams and the guys past your top 2 running backs kind of have to be special teams guys when you do the math of how a roster is built, which is why Justice Hill,
even Keaton Mitchell,
maybe even Keaton Mitchell. I still think that's it's a stretch at the moment. Yeah. But I get it. Like Keaton Mitchell, if the path got there, he would certainly be a guy who's going to be involved in special teams. So I just wonder, not because I don't think Melvin Gordon couldn't be one of their best backs, but in simple roster construction, I don't think you can carry 3 running backs that don't have special teams roles. Not impossible. And again, that might be mitigated if they don't feel uber confidence in the workload that J.K. Dobbins is ready to take on as he returns. If they are concerned about that, then it doesn't guarantee that Melvin Gordon has a spot, but it certainly would add to the chances of Melvin Gordon having a spot. Again, roster construction is a difficult thing. Like, you only get to have 53. So a handful of those guys have to be special teams players. And I just think there's a limit. Like, I think there's a limit to how many wide receivers you can have that aren't special teams players, right? Like,
I mean,
the top 3 on this team appear to be guys that won't be special teams guys. How many after that? Like Nelson Aguilar, is he going to have a special teams role?
Right. I mean, like coverage on kickoffs, I guess. Like that's.
I don't know.
I mean, it seems like just the way we look at it, we want
obviously Duvernay, of course.
Yeah, we want them to keep like as many DBs, I think, as possible.
Well, and so you could say that at this point, name which DB on this team, not name Marlon Humphrey, would be above being a special teamer, right? Yeah. Like, you could say that too. I don't know. The Melvin Gordon thing is interesting to me because in the context, I don't think it makes a difference in what they're going to do this season. But there was a little bit of real money. It appeared to also be kind of like an insurance policy for what if the problem is bigger with J.K. Dobbins. And if J.K. Dobbins is just all good now, do they kind of say to themselves, well, we don't need Melvin Gordon. Like, we just don't in roster construction.
Unless they want to have a full competition for the second string running back between Gus and.
I mean, they're paying a lot of money to Gus Edwards. Yeah. Like, that's not a. It's a far bigger problem for them if Gus Edwards isn't definitively their best option as a third down and goal line back.
Just seeing him play on Saturday.
Yes, I do not care remotely about that.
That's a lot of money to put on the field, then.
I hear you. But he's also dealt with injuries, and so I can see why they want to make sure that he's in a certain shape. I don't. To me, I don't see it. Now, they might, already in their mind, they might have gone through the map of what the roster looks like, and they might say, no, we do have that spot. And again, I would change if they are concerned about how ready J.K. Dobbins is, then they might feel the need. Or they might say, well, that means that Justice Hill's going to have to play a little bit more. But my gut tells me it makes the path to the roster difficult for Melvin Gordon just because of the sheer number of players that you'd be talking about, that you'd be carrying a third. You're carrying a third running back with no special teams role. Unless Melvin Gordon's willing to take on some sort of special teams role.
Coverage. Always need him.
I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. All right, when we come back in, I do want to get into the AITA. The A-hole. That's what I want to know when we come back in. Also, do you want to tell everybody about what's going on at Live Casino and Hotel?
I would love to. I want to tell you about the new Chanel and what they're doing at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Indulge yourself in true luxury this August at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. One of 20 winners will walk away with the new collection from Chanel, valued at over $40,000, plus $30,000 in other prizes, including a free play of up to $5,000. So from now through August 26th, all Live Casino and Hotel Maryland rewards members will have a chance to earn entries before the drawing on August 26th. For more info, go to maryland.livecasinohotel.com/promotions. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right. Am I the A-hole? Next, GCR. Hike to new heights. The best view is yours in Washington County. Our iconic scenic overlooks provide some of the most breathtaking vistas in the Mid-Atlantic. Some are very easy walks, some can be driven to, and some are the payoff for a moderate to difficult hike. All are near quaint small towns that offer great dining, shopping, hiking gear, and more. Explore our 5 national parks for iconic vistas and wineries with breathtaking views. Visit our quaint historic towns and make your stay unforgettable. Learn more at visithagerstown.com. Maryland, be open.
America's biggest bike race returns to Maryland Sunday, September 3rd as 120 of the world's best cyclists race the Maryland Cycling Classic presented by United Healthcare. Come enjoy the free fan zones and festival with interactives, food, and drink beginning at noon. Then see the exciting race conclusion from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Inner Harbor. Come be loud, be proud, and let the world hear you. For more information, go to marylandcyclingclassic.us.
Soak up summertime fun in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouth-watering eats, and endless entertainment. Cheer on the O's at Camden Yards. Pick crabs by the waterfront. Beat the heat inside a world-class museum and make memories that will last a lifetime. Go to baltimore.org for more information and to plan your visit.
You feel that? That's the sound of football coming back, and now's the time to place your preseason bets with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the most trusted name in Vegas, and now you can use my promo code GlennClark23 to score up to $250 with their first bet bonus. Win or lose, they'll match your first bet up to $250 with the promo code GlennClark23. All one word, no spaces, 2 N's in Glenn. Don't miss out this football season. Win some money with Superbook Sports and that promo code GlennClark23. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I'm Michael Jangrandi, president of AJ Michaels, your carrier energy expert for 44 years. Save money, energy, and make your home more comfortable and virus-free. Find us at ajmichaels.com. That's ajmichaels.com.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Kahn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR. I got into a little bit of a Twitter fight yesterday. The thing happened. I don't want to say I'm proud of it because I don't like getting into Twitter fights. I don't know this person. You might remember yesterday on the show, we talked about some audio from over the weekend on Root Sports out in Seattle. I believe we even played the audio, did we not?
Do it again?
I guess if you'd like to, we could play it again. We played some audio from post-game on Saturday night. And that audio was weird. It was I don't know how to describe it. You can listen to it again. These humans genuinely appear to be like on the verge of tears talking about the Mariners losing to Felix Bautista on Felix Hernandez Day. It's super weird. Go ahead.
Baseball analyst Ryan Roland Smith. I just hope the Orioles don't tweet out in the social media say, King Felix gets the win today against the Mariners, and don't give me any ideas. Come on, we have the real king. That's right, and it is our king, Felix, and we'll have more on the king as he got his crown.
What is any of that? Like, what in the world? Again, I get it. Tough game to lose. Your guy throws a 9-inning gem on the day you put a beloved player into the Hall of Fame. I understand. It's a tough game to lose. But what was that? And again, this obsession with this one tweet that was ever sent. It's just also bizarre. So I don't know who the first guy is. I apologize. I don't know who the host of the. Don't know.
It said his name. It was Brad Adam.
Brad Adam. Yes. Might be a swell fella. Like that's. I don't know. This isn't him, is it? Like he's not trying to check in to respond to the audio. Might be a great guy. This is weird, but I get it. Everybody has weird moments. The other fella was a former major league pitcher named Ryan Roland Smith. It was never particularly good, but somebody would say that about, anybody. He might have had his moments. I'm not sure. Ironically, last week when we were looking for a Seattle person, apparently he was among the names that I gave Griffin and said, well, this is also a Seattle person. You could call him. We ended up having Rick Riz on. We had a very lovely conversation. In hindsight, I think I'm glad it wasn't this person. So this video gets shared out after the game on Saturday night, and everyone is dunking on these weirdos. Like, dude, what is this? This is weirdo behavior. This is not normal human behavior. And this guy, Ryan Roland Smith, tweets out, a couple of jokes on the Mariners postgame got us living rent-free in Baltimore. Which, again, we start with a bizarre premise, which is them crying about Felix Hernandez and Felix Bautista.
Yeah.
Is one of the strangest sounds I've ever heard a human make. Unless he was, if he was referring to the other guy bringing it up, if, he had been like, dude, are you really? Then that noise might have made sense. But, I'm genuinely hurt by this.
Don't give them.
So bizarre.
Don't give them the idea. Don't.
So he tweets that out. And, of course, me, like anybody else who enjoys a good S-posting, I see it, and I retweet it, and I say, you're probably thinking to yourself, where was the joke? But let's be fair, this is definitively as funny as the television program The Big Bang Theory. Now, please allow me for a second here, because
whoa.
Our friend Spiro Marikis was very bothered by this. I love Spiro. Going to try to get Spiro in here before the Springsteen show. Love Spiro. He's very bothered by me making the comparison, because to him, the Big Bang Theory is a very funny show. Of course, there's nothing funny about this. There's not a joke in there. And he says the Big Bang Theory is funny. To be fair, and I have to be honest about this, I've never watched the Big Bang Theory in my life.
Now, here you go.
The only basis I have for this is that something that I did watch, and I couldn't tell you what it was, came on after a repeat of the Big Bang Theory, and I would see the final. I don't even know what they call it. The thing when the credits are running or have run, and
the cold outro.
The cold outro, if you will. Yeah, I don't know, because it's the cold open. I have no idea what they call that thing, but I never laughed once. I never at any point would see these final 30 seconds of the show and think, I got to take more of a look at this program. Never did a thing for me. And in fairness, it could have been anything. I just had to pick a show. I started to say King of Queens.
No, don't.
I watched episodes of that show. There was never a funny moment.
Kevin James.
No.
He's fantastic.
No. And I've dunked on Adam Sandler enough in my life. I didn't need to go back and say than any Adam Sandler movie in the last 30 years. I didn't need to do that. So I just picked something, The Big Bang Theory, whatever.
I'm glad you didn't pick it Adam Sandler.
This guy, the guy, Ryan Roland Smith. We might need to pull that as a sound clip. We might not need to make that more available to ourselves in certain situations. That guy did not like it. Remember the conversation I had yesterday about fragility in Seattle? I'm like, is it possible there's just more fragility in Seattle than I realized? That guy.
We delved into it. There probably is. 20 plus.
I think we're learning something.
Years of losing. 30 years of losing.
That guy did not care for it. He replied, Tons of likes on that one. This is where I'm going to get into the am I the a-hole part of this. Tons of likes on that one. Now, at the moment, I believe it had only 4 likes. I think if anybody has followed me or us on Twitter,
Glenn does it for the likes.
Yeah, as you know, big into likes. That's what I'm here for. Now, perhaps the powers that be here would prefer that I cared more about these types of things. I just never have, and I never will. I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I'm going to do. I absolutely do not do anything caring about retweets, likes, anything. Again, I have no doubt that that's very frustrating to John Colson, to my bosses at to CBS. I'm sure they would all prefer that I was doing dynamite like-driven or data-driven content on Twitter. But I can't do the dumbing down thing. I can't do it where the Baltimore Orioles are blank for the purpose of trying to get a ton of I just can't. I will never be capable of doing that. So he says tons of likes on that one. Now, I had the option. I could have just left it alone. I could have just said, I got better things to do with my day. I don't need to fight with Ryan Roll. I don't even know this guy. But I actually had it in me yesterday. I think I had to kill some time because I had been asked by the boys on the afternoon show over there to come on with them at 4:45, and I believe this all happened around
I'm looking at the tweet now.
Like
this tweet was sent at 4:44.
I think I just had some time to kill, is what happened. And so I'm like, well, I'm sitting here waiting for a phone call. I got it in me. I got time. I got time. So he says tons of likes on that one. And I say, well, perspective is key. You see not a lot of likes. I see, well, it's 6 times as much as a local TV comedian's career war.
I think I'm still on your side. It's a pretty clever.
I thought it was.
Comeback.
I thought.
I mean,
Ryan Roland Smith's career war, 0.7. So at the time, my 4 likes on that tweet, 6 times as much as Ryan Roland Smith's career war. And then I threw in the local TV. I realized later that he was very bothered by me saying local TV comedian. I was just trying to make a joke about him referring to himself as a comedian, him pretending like they were doing some wacky SNL sketch when there was not a single joke told. It was just bizarro land. So he clearly was bothered by that. He responds. Again, definitely a person who's not fragile. What was your war? Now, I thought about a few different ways I could have gone. I like the Spanish-American one myself. Like, I thought about different ways that I could go. But I ultimately, now I had finished the phone call with the boys on the afternoon show, and I did want to go to the gym. Like, I did, want to get my workout in. So I just said, you know what? It also started with the 0. Big of you to try to find common ground. Now the healing can begin. Again, I still think that I'm being clever enough that, I'm not the a-hole. I still think that any reasonable person should be able to see how truly silly all of this is. And I've not crossed the line into total dickishness, I don't think, yet.
Right. I mean...
Hi. This guy.
Yeah, I think it was fair. I think he was starting to cross a line.
Yeah, this guy. He apparently had nothing better to do with his day yesterday than to then start stalking my bio, or our bio on Twitter, because I share my Twitter account with the show. He started stalking the bio account. Next tweet. Hey, by the way, 1998 called. It wants its GlennClarkSportsRadio.com website back. Come on, man. Give your dedicated 5 listeners something good to go visit. For the record, if we're up to 5. Great news, John. We're up to 5 now. Take that out there. We got the big numbers coming in. This guy not only decided to stalk the bio, he then purposefully mangled the name of the website.
I was trying to figure out where he found.
No, there is he's so bored and so obsessed that he took it and added another word into it, so that his 5 followers would then see, 1998 whatever, website does not exist or something like that, and in hopes that he could get those people to dunk on me, you don't even have a working website. Like, this is way out there, man. Like, this starts going past even, like, at least Kevin Durant's Twitter creepiness is, like, kind of funny sometimes. This is bizarro world. I mean, this is something that a 16-year-old would do.
Right. And Kevin Durant acknowledges, you're like, yeah, I know I'm on Twitter. Like,
correct, 100%. Like, this is what I'm going to be.
I know this is ridiculous, but I want to do this.
This is he's making something up in hopes to present a new reality to whoever is following him that is now invested in this. God knows what those people are doing with their day. To have them click on what is a fake website that he has utterly pulled out of his ass to try to dunk on me. It is weirdo behavior beyond weirdo behavior. Like, it is the epitome of, dude, what? You're a former Major League Baseball player. I have to believe there's a better way for you to be spending your time than making up a website to try to present to whoever follows you, I'm better than this guy because, look, this guy's website doesn't even work. Which, again,
not your website.
You in order to find out that I had a website, you had to copy it from my bio, and then you just decided to add another word to it. It's so weird. I didn't have to do that with Ryan Rowland-Smith's career WAR. I want to make that abundantly clear. I didn't see that his career WAR was 7 and then adjust it to say 0.7. That would be weirdo behavior. I went to his Baseball Reference and saw his career WAR was 0.7 and screenshotted it. So I don't know what to do with this now. Now I'm in uncharted territory of like, is the guy so far off the deep end? Like, is this guy actually maybe an axe murderer? Like, is he that obsessed?
He's gonna find us.
I got to be honest with you. This is some weirdo behavior. Again, if you're weirder than Kevin Durant is on Twitter, like, that's got to be the cutoff, right? Like, because he's a fun weird to me. This is straight shoot weird. So I'm like, all right, I'll dig in. And I remember the conversation we had yesterday on the show about, are people in Seattle just way more fragile than we realized they were? Here's the next tweet. Me today. Quote, I wonder if there's a fragility thing in Seattle that we just weren't aware of. Unquote. The guy we were talking about. Quote, no, we do very normal things like copying someone's bio but then purposefully mangling it to make it look like something else. Okay, maybe I'm starting to, like, maybe that one's not funny as much as it's just a unique.
You're just pointing it out.
It's just an accurate retelling of what occurred here. Guy. And then not done.
Yeah.
Not done. The guy's so obsessed with my bio that now he reads over all of the jobs that I have, and he tries to figure out which of them seems the smallest to him. Like, it's really weird how he didn't attempt to go after Odyssey or ESPN or the Patriot League or any of those things. He picked out Stevenson University, which I want to make very clear. I'm quite proud of my affiliation with Stevenson University. It's an incredible institute of learning. Like, I hope my kids are able to get into Stevenson University if that's what they want to do one day. I'm very proud of it. I put it in my bio because it helps me provide for my family. I'm proud of it. This creep, Ryan Rowland-Smith. Keeping it local for you, mate. All the best with your Stevenson Mustangs radio broadcast. I'll be one of the handful tuning in. Yeah, thumbs down emoji. Bro.
And that was in reply to his own tweet, like him promoting.
Oh, I did see that later.
Yeah.
At first, I did not see that.
Yeah.
He was trying to get me to see that he gets to do a game
on
for Peacock
right.
because they pull in a local broadcast. If for those that don't know, the way the Peacock broadcasts work is they pick a local broadcaster from each team, and they let him do it. And I guess he wants me to think that makes him a big network TV star and that I should show more respect to him
Well, it does.
than to, like, again, I have worked for ESPN. That doesn't mean I'm an employee of ESPN. Do we understand how this works? And I don't really care. Like, this is weirdo behavior no matter who. In fact, honestly, if he was an employee of NBC, it would probably be even more weirdo behavior. Like, it would even be stranger if that were the case. But I don't. Before yesterday, I had no ill will towards this human. I just wanted to point out that it was. I got there, right? I got there. So, this guy wants me to know that he gets to be on Peacock, which cool. Like,
it's big platform.
I don't want to. It's gonna sound like I'm dunking on him. Like, that's the best you can do for a Mariners person. Like, I can't. I'm sorry. I know that part. That part I am right. Like, you can say I am.
The line, all right?
But like, dude, really? Like, was there nobody else? Like, Ben McDonald had a career.
You should have said, who's their
Jim Palmer? When the Orioles have been on Peacock, they picked Ben McDonald and Jim Palmer.
You should have asked them. You should have replied. Who said no that they went to you?
Oh God, I'm telling you that would have been completely crossing over into the I'm just the a-hole. Like, that's who they found was the guy with the career .7 WAR. Please pull up what current Orioles have a better career or a better WAR this season than this player's career WAR. I believe, I believe Ramon Urias has a better WAR this season than this guy had for his career. Again, that doesn't mean he wasn't a Major League Baseball player. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have some level of authority about the game that's being played. I'm not trying to discredit this human's credentials to be a baseball broadcaster.
There are at least 12. Yeah. At least 12.
So, he wants to dunk on what he perceives to be the smallest of the jobs that I have, which, again, like, whatever. I'm not embarrassed by it, which you know because I talk about it constantly.
James McCann has 0.7. Aaron Hicks, 0.7. Michael Bauman, 0.7 this season.
That guy had a career WAR equal to James McCann this season. Anyway, so then I follow up by saying, it's kind of weird to cry about which baseball player can be called king and then claim it was a Netflix special. Which, again, was the premise of how all of this started, was just me pointing out, dude, you did something weird on television, and then you tried to pretend like you were doing a comedy show.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird. Him. You know what's even weirder? You have jobs. I'm not mad. Please don't let the newspaper say I was mad. Which, of course, for those of you that are internet aficionados, you will know is one of the greatest tweets of all time from a legendary Twitter poster named Drill. And if you're not familiar with the work of Drill, D-R-I-L, I would just encourage you to dive in. Not everything's a hit, but it's just all over the place. And one of his most legendary tweets is, I'm not mad. Please don't let the newspaper say that I was mad. And it's something that in Twitter culture we pull out when someone's being overtly defensive. When someone's being overwhelmingly defensive, we pull out this famous Drill tweet, I'm not mad, please don't let the newspaper say I was mad. He clearly doesn't get it. Again, that's fine. Maybe he was busy playing baseball. It's the case. So he responds, sweet word salad. And I just realized
and he wins. He won.
You know what? You know what? And I had no other choice but to share the meme or the GIF of Chris. What the hell is it? Is it Chris Kardashian? Is that the mother of the family? Is that the mother of the Kardashians?
Yeah.
Chris Kardashian saying, "You're doing amazing, sweetie," which is, of course, another famous Twitter trope. So I asked the question, Griffin. You've seen everything here.
Yeah. I have all the facts, I think.
I understand this is an awkward spot for you because, like, I'm the director of programming here. Maybe I should have presented all this to someone else, but you're what I've got. You're on this Twitter account, too. This reflects you. You're part of Glenn Clark Radio. AITA, am I the asshole?
Yeah, it was a very thin line, and you came pretty close. But I
purposely attempted to avoid crossing the line. I was trying to keep it to just some S posting and just silly fun.
Quick shot at his career war,
I mean, dude.
Public knowledge,
Like, he was going after how many likes I had. I don't care about that. I'm going to guess that might have been a little bit more important to him, that he wasn't that good of a baseball player. But it's the whole thing.
He's making a good career for himself. He should be.
So am I the a-hole for having pointed out you weren't good at baseball?
I don't think so. I think you were. I think it looked like it was kind of fun Twitter banner. At least it should have been. And I think he might have gotten a little worked up over it. But as you pointed out, it's just Seattle might have this.
Pitched in parts of 5 seasons, for what it's worth.
It's pretty good.
A couple of them, truly full seasons.
A lot more.
One. I don't know if any. For the most part. By the way, I'm actually confused as to why his WAR is so big. Oh, he was a reliever. I see. I don't know. In 1 year, one year he made 15 starts and pitched to a 3.74 ERA.
Dang.
That's again. It was short. It was to 09. He didn't pitch for the whole season. So, but that was a pretty good year. 3.74 ERA, 1.183 WHIP. I mean, I'd take that guy for what it's worth. The rest of his seasons weren't that, but none of them were. I don't know. I don't know if they were only. He only had one really atrocious season, and then he just never really came back. He barely pitched when he came back into the league in Arizona in 2014. I don't know why I guess he just didn't do enough. He just never did enough.
He wasn't a high leverage guy, I guess.
Yeah, his WAR was just sort of irrelevant.
Yennier Cano's got 1.3 this season somehow.
Guy had a career 0.7 WAR for his career. Again, that doesn't mean he didn't accomplish. Some guys don't. Ryan Ripken never made the major leagues, but yet I'd listen to Ryan Ripken's opinion about baseball. I think he's qualified to talk about the game, despite the fact that he wasn't a particularly good player.
So he had a 0.4 WAR in his first season. Then he had a 2.0, and then a 1.2. So he was pretty.
It was on track to be a guy.
And then he had a negative 2.6 WAR in his final season, in his final full season.
Well, okay, so when Ben McDonald does games for Peacock, what do you think his career WAR was?
What was Ben McDonald's career?
Because it wasn't overwhelming. Ben McDonald certainly isn't Jim Palmer. Let's not pretend.
15?
How about 20.8?
Okay.
How about 20.8 career WAR for Ben McDonald?
So we're talking 20 times, over 20 times.
Yes. Now I am. We are really crossing the line into where we are.
Change my
answer?
Right?
Yeah, I am. Am I? Did you hear any of that story, Colson? All right, never mind. I just need to know if I'm the asshole or not. Colson just is going to assume that it was but he doesn't know. Well, that's a shame. I would have liked a second opinion about that. I don't know if you guys have a differing opinion. If you think that I crossed the line or I was
clip this,
Yeah, I don't know if
tell the full story.
Right. I'm not trying to hide from it. I thought that I was having fun Twitter banter. I thought that it was a fun back and forth, and I'm certainly not offended by the guy. You and your 5 listeners. Come on, man. That's just dumb, Twitter shtick. But I'm going to go back, because you made up a website. Because you're a weirdo. That's weirdo behavior. And again, I think all 5 of my listeners are very offended. Oh, God. Yeah, we can put it out there. I have no problem. Right. I think the responses that I was getting did not suggest that I was the a-hole. But, again, who knows? Maybe a deeper dive.
We're gonna get a rude awakening.
Some of my coworkers at Stevenson appreciated me standing up. I have a great. I don't know how to explain this to you. I have a great job there. I love it.
Got a couple extra eyes on Stevenson.
Yeah, it's wonderful. If you think you're dunking on it, I got bad news for you. I love it there. But it is very weird how you didn't mention Odyssey, how you didn't mention any of what you could recognize were the bigger companies that I also work for. You wanted to go after Stevenson University. I don't know if that's because Ryan Rowland Smith hates student athletes. I don't know if that's what it is.
Don't let the paper say that then.
Yeah, don't whatever. Don't hate. Yeah, don't let the newspaper say
that. He hates collegiate athletics.
Dude, that is it was bizarre, right? We're that I'm not wrong that that's definitely
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't.
bizarro.
I think yeah, it was.
That's
a
weirdo
large
behavior.
Overreaction.
It's weirdo stuff in there, like making up a website to try to find someone to dunk on,
and then especially after that, when he sends out his own tweet, kind of promoting himself,
right?
And then
like you're still so in on this that you're like, yeah, like let me get after that guy in Baltimore. You're both trying to denigrate me and also think that I'm so important that you need to. It's weirdo behavior, man. All I wanted to do was throw out an S post. All I wanted to do was point out how truly bizarre it is that someone would claim after some just bizarre stuff in a postgame segment, we were doing a wacky. Just guys telling jokes. I thought jokes were supposed to be funny. Like, I thought maybe I just don't know how jokes work. Like, maybe that's part of the problem is that I just don't understand comedy at that level.
And then the way the Mariners lost last night.
Oh, man.
What if he tagged him in
I thought about it for a second. I didn't do it. Because, again, I do think that at some point
you were getting close to that
it traipses into you move past. You definitely are.
Harassing the guy.
But, man, they blew a 5-0 lead.
Oh, God.
Lost on a walk-off bunt to the Kansas City Royals. They might have been broken. Like, they were the best team in baseball, like, coming into the Orioles series.
And then the real King Felix came in.
It might have broken them. Like, what the Oh, it's so bad. All right. I just wanted to get an opinion. Okay. Very good. Very good. You can share it if you'd like. I'm fine with it.
Right.
Let's get a tidbit. Tidbit is brought to you today by Superbook. Love me some Superbook. And you guys will love a $250, up to $250 first bet match. Win or lose, whatever your first bet is, up to $250, it will be matched in free bets from your friends at Superbook, but only if you use the code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK 23. GlennClark23 is the code. Got to use it, Superbook.com or the Superbook app. You use that code, you're getting that match. First bet. If your first bet's $10, win or lose, you get $10 worth of free bets. If it's $225, you get $225 worth of free bets. If it's $6,000, you get $250 worth of free bets. First bet match up to $250. Win or lose. GlennClark23, GlennClark 23 is the code with Superbook.
I guess just speaking of Twitter, so Jay Kuda obviously sends out a lot of tweets every single day, and I use him for inspiration for tidbits often. And then obviously the Orioles made their profile picture, the Microsoft Paint.
Oh, I did see that. Yeah, I like Jay Kuda. It's not. I said this to somebody last night. I think I saw it to Derek from Utah Street Report. They're not all home runs.
No, they're not.
A lot of them.
His content.
A lot of them are nothing.
Yeah.
Enough are solid singles, and there are enough solid singles with the occasional pop. Dude, the one yesterday, it was the one that finally convinced me to hit follow. Was the one where he said it's the full season minor league affiliates by team, and it was just a chart, and it had all the names of the major league teams, and then AAA, AA, High A, Low A, and every column just said one.
Each team has one minor league team for each division.
And I just said to myself, yeah, all right, that one. Today he put out one that was a Venn diagram of Mike Trout and Walt Weiss with nothing in the middle. To differentiate that Mike Trout and Walt Weiss are different people. And I said to myself, I'm glad I followed. It was worth it.
He had a good one over the weekend where he kind of prorated. So Matt Olson and the Braves have obviously been insane, and Matt Olson and Austin Riley have been ridiculous since the All-Star break. So he kind of prorated their All-Star break, their numbers since the All-Star break.
Oh, did you see the Phillies? Hang on, did you see the Phillies one?
The Phillies, his Microsoft Paint?
No. He said what every major league team would be called if they were named like the Philadelphia Phillies. The Baltimore Balties.
Yes, the Boston Balties or something.
Right, it was I don't know what. I don't know who has who has the time.
I know exactly. Like I think his job, like
who's employing him. Like I don't get it. But it's work.
He's like a stat engineer or something. Or he got a civil engineering degree.
If you say
from
so.
Michigan State.
If you say so.
But so he prorated Matt Olson and Austin Riley's numbers over the past month, essentially, since the All-Star break. So for a full season, Matt Olson will be on track to have 81 home runs, 206 RBIs. Austin Riley 75.
Now, I don't know this, but I believe those would probably be records.
Those would be, yeah. And Olson with a 450 on base and slugging 785. Austin Riley slugging 748. So just they've been red hot since the All-Star break. The Braves are very, very good, and that stat kind of shows you just how good they've been. Saw this one yesterday from my mom sent it to me. It was on the Maryland website. Maryland was one of 2 schools in the entire nation last year to win a bowl game in football, to win a men's tournament game, and a women's tournament game. Women's basketball.
Fortunately, did not win a men's lacrosse tournament game.
No, yeah,
that's a shame. One of 2 schools to have done all those things. Who was the other one? LSU.
Not LSU. I'm trying to think of what they didn't do.
They might not have won their bowl game. I don't. Or maybe did they not go to a? No, they went to a bowl game. They came on at the end of the season, but I don't know. Who knows who won a bowl game? For God's sakes.
You should know.
I know one team that won a bowl game, Georgia. That's what I know.
Maryland.
I do know Maryland. That's a good point. And I'm going to guess that Georgia did not. I know that TCU won their bowl game, but I don't know if they won TCU. How would I know? Again, you're asking me to know who won bowl games.
Right, so you want one more
Hang on a
guess?
second.
Okay.
Hang on a second. Did Penn State win the Rose Bowl? Penn State.
Penn State is not the answer.
Okay.
What did they lose?
I don't even know if they won the Rose Bowl. I think they
did win.
I thought they won the Rose Bowl.
LSU did win. They won the Cheez-It Bowl. So I think the
so they didn't. They
team,
clearly. We
team.
know that has to be the case because we know they
basketball
won
team.
the. Did Iowa?
It was not Iowa.
Okay. We're doing well here.
Yeah.
We're doing well here.
It's an
Hey,
SEC.
shut up! God, with you. Why can you not keep it in your pants?
I don't know.
What is it?
I feel like.
Why are you in such a rush?
I feel like it's not great radio.
I will
when you're
ask
just sitting here
you.
Going,
No, that's brilliant radio.
Okay. All right, sorry.
Tell that to Ryan Roland Smith. You think they can do that on the Mariners postgame show? Tennessee.
Correct.
I only got that because you said SEC.
Sorry.
God.
I have another one if we can save it.
I don't. Yeah, maybe save it.
Okay.
You just please keep it in your pants every now and then. Get all worked up.
No more hints for you ever.
It rhymes with Spenacy. Oh. Is it? Huh. God. Cannot ease yourself. It's like I know the answer. I've got to tell you what the answer is.
All right, sorry. No more hints.
Sometimes I'll tell you. Sometimes I'll say it's time. Give me a hint.
Okay.
Good job, pal. All right, here's what's coming up totally too.
Hey, you're not an asshole, okay?
Thanks, buddy. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it. How about those guys on the afternoon show not understanding why they would want to spend a day having fun with their friends? That sounds terrible to me. What do you do with your? What do you do with your time?
I was.
Yeah, it got a little.
Well,
I mean, like I was so.
I'm looking forward to next year. I want to get
so
dirty.
bizarre.
I'm ready to get dirty.
What a weird.
I don't want to get what happened to Caleb.
No, it's part of it. Battle scars, baby. Battle scars.
That looked.
It's fine. You think all of us have had that happen? It's just fine. I'm telling you, I feel I don't have that gnarly bruise
Caleb
this year.
In the studio, he could barely walk.
And I feel worse this year than I have felt the years where I've had the very gnarly bruises. I do miss the years where we would all send each other bruise. I only got a couple bruise pics sent to me.
It looked like Caleb
year.
got hit by like a giant paintball. It just.
Yeah, I mean, like it's.
It looked.
But did he win?
Yeah, he did.
What does it feel like to be a champion? You know what I mean? Like what's the trade-off worth there, pal? You're not willing in dodgeball. You weren't willing to get a little bruise.
No,
I thought you were. I thought you were a champion.
Yeah,
I thought that was what that was all
plenty
about.
Of battle scars and scrapes.
God, now you're like, oh, I don't want to get a bruise. Who are you?
Well, I haven't. You're right.
I thought you were a champion.
I am. Yeah, you're right.
This is coming up totally tubular tonight.
Once I get out there, it changes. You're right.
Yeah, once you're on the field to play. Yeah. Orioles Padres continue the series. Jack Flaherty on the mound against Michael Wacha. 9:40 on ESPN. Not on ESPN2, on MASN 2. It's also on MLB Network if you happen to live in the Los Angeles or Milwaukee markets. MASN's got Red Sox Nationals 7, TBS Yankees Braves 7:20. Boy, all these networks that backloaded Yankees and Red Sox into their season, kind of rough. MLB Network Brewers Dodgers at 10. The other Women's World Cup semifinal will be overnight. It's 6 a.m. It's a little bit later tomorrow, so maybe if you're up early, you'll be able to watch it between Australia and England. Should be a good one.
End, yeah.
6 a.m. tomorrow on Fox. Amazon Prime, New York Liberty, Las Vegas Aces at 9. Tennis Channel for coverage for the Western and Southern Open out in Cincinnati right now. New episode of The Ultimate Fighter tonight at 10 on ESPN, and WWE NXT at 8 on USA. Non-sports highlights?
Yeah, a few things, finally. Hard Knocks, the second episode
yes,
with the Jets. Only Murders, new episode of that.
Okay. I have not started yet. I said I'm going to wait 4 episodes in. Although I don't really have anything to watch right now because I watched Jury Duty.
How was it?
I enjoyed it a great deal. I think it's fun. The way that everybody said it was fun. It's not
like
earth-shattering.
Right.
It's not a thinking man show. It's an improv show. And the fact they were able to pull it off is kind of remarkable. I think everybody knows what the premise of the show is at this point. It's kind of remarkable. The character they had James Marsden play as himself was a lot of fun. The guy was perfect. It was a fun show.
Seriously.
There are things that, after it was over, I look back on think you pushed it a little bit. Either you got lucky or the guy just didn't want to talk about. He was willing to just be maybe none of this is real.
Suspension of disbelief.
Right. There's a few things in hindsight that were a bit much, but it was a fun show. I get why everybody liked it so much. It was a pleasant watch. And I'm caught up on Winning Time, so I don't really know. Tonight, when we have time to kill before the Orioles game starts, I don't know what I'm going to watch. I guess I could start Only Murders. I'm caught up on what we do.
Hard Knocks would come out earlier. So
I wish I cared. Oh, there isn't there the next Untold?
It is Hall of Shame. So
that's the steroid era. I might watch that. I might watch that tonight.
That is the third or the fourth one. Next week is the Swamp.
The Florida. The one that we all want. And that's only one part?
Yeah. At least I think.
Maybe giant miss that
really
is.
Good. Maybe it'll be really good.
How in the world did Netflix not say, by the way, we need about 8 hours of that one?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Reinventing Elvis, the '68 comeback documentary on
They put that in theaters for a minute so it could get Academy Award consideration for Best Documentary. So if you watch the Elvis movie, then you saw a little bit of that, and I think everybody knows the significance of the '68 comeback special. I am intrigued. I don't have Paramount Plus, so we'll see. But I would watch that. Anything else?
Yeah, that is it.
All right, it's still more than typical,
yes.
So I appreciate that. All right, very good. Thanks today to Disco Dan Ford. Thanks to Seth Walder from ESPN. Thanks to Evan Washburn. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at Glenn Clark Radio. Oh, and Am I the A-Hole?
Yes.
We'll get all that up in that tab. Anything tomorrow?
We'll be catching up with Shanda Brigance.
OJ's wife. Yeah, they got a big event coming up.
Stuff and things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks to everybody at PressBox. That's not great. Everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Visit Baltimore, Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, Glory Days Grill, Dorchester County, the Bowie Bay Sox, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Superbook, Baltimore Orioles, Birdland Sports, Easy Pass MD, Washington County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com, the Maryland Cycling Classic. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds, Duke sucks.